All right. Hello and welcome to another episode of The Panel, not the Couch Warrior podcast. We're here to do our pay-per-view panel. Me and my co-host, 138 MMA, Tyler, my guy. Every pay-per-view, we go live on one of our channels and we bring on two, sometimes three, but two very dope guests. Today, we have two of the sharpest and coolest and funniest in the game. We got Liam Picks Fights and Johnny K Picks along with us. Johnny, thanks for coming on, brother. How you feeling about this card?
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me. I love this card from top to bottom. I think all these fights are great. I mean, there's a couple that are better than others, let's be honest, but I'm excited for all of them. Like I said, when it first starts off with Brown and Salikov, that's a good fight. I'll tell you, that'll be on the main card last week for sure. So I'm excited. I'm pumped. I got 6 bets. Let's run.
Nice. Liam, thank you, brother, for coming on. Like always, how you feeling about the card, brother?
Absolutely, my man. It's always a pleasure. And I'm looking at this card and saying to myself, I've done well on these fighters in the past. So hopefully we can pick our spots accordingly and keep the ball rolling. I've been on a little bit of an event streak to end out this year. So be something nice to end it on a winning note here for the last UFC of the year. And who better to do it with than the power panel? So let's get it rocking and rolling.
You just reminded me that this is the last card of the year, and now I'm kind of upset. But last
we get a full month off.
I had the Santa hat on too. I gave you a couple of clues,
But Tyler, how about you, brother? My co-host, how are you doing? How are you feeling about the card?
I love this card, and here's the deal. I've got to do really well on this card, but because my bet winnings is how I pay for my groceries. And we don't have fights for a month. So if I don't do really well, your boy's gonna be starving.
Ramen.
Tyler's
so we're killing this
ramen
card.
for
There's only
month.
one card I hate, or one fight on this card I hate.
Tyler's literally fighting for his food this week.
Dude,
Dude's
every
about
week.
to go hot.
Everybody donate to 138 MMA. Come on, guys.
With
It's
MMA
Christmas
bets
season.
since 2020. Not even kidding. That's literally the truth.
I'm
If I don't win, if I have a losing week, I straight up just have to eat whatever I've got, which it sometimes is more than others.
Tyler goes hunting whenever he has an off week because that's the only way he's getting anything to eat.
I do grow a garden in the summertime, so I've always got a little bit on the back. So
there you go.
I mean, you got the bunker. You have to have that thing stocked up.
It's not stocked as full as it should be, but I had a bad week 2 weeks ago, so I had to eat what was left.
It's a good way to change out your inventory though, because you don't want to have that stuff sitting longer than 2 years. So I totally get it.
Totally.
All right. Well, I hope you're able to eat hard this week, Tyler. I hope you get enough money for 2 months of groceries.
Let's get some steak for Tyler this week.
Heck yeah.
Yes.
Let's go.
All right. Let's hop right
profit.
into it. Got 14 fights to go through. This is going to be a good time. First fight up, we've got Randy Brown versus Muslim Salikov. Brown, 17-5-0, 33 years old, 6'3" with a 78-inch reach. Salikov on the other side, 19-4-0. He's 6 years older at 39, 4 inches shorter, and he's going to have the same reach. Johnny, why don't you start us off, my brother?
Yeah, striker versus striker mainly. I know they both can wrestle and grapple at times, but they're probably not going to here. So I like Brown. I think he's the younger guy. He's going to have the reach advantage on Salikov. Salikov does have some good kicks, spinning kicks and stuff early on in the first round, but he does slow down as the fight goes on. He's 39 years old. I get it. But and I know in his last couple fights in the third round, he hasn't really looked too good. And Brown, I mean, he does have some questionable fight IQ sometimes at certain points, but I just think the reach and the range that he's going to have on Salikov here is going to give Salikov a lot of trouble. And I don't see a finish, but I'm going to go with Brown to win by decision. I like the overs in the spot too. Just the third round will scare me though. So maybe Brown round 3 or decision might be a little bit safer though.
I like that. I honestly like that decision call. I didn't even think about it for a second with Brown. Let me see what it's at. Brown by decision plus 130. Interesting look.
Okay. So maybe close to a pick 'em for round 3 or decision.
Oh, that might be a good call too. How about you, Liam? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I agree. In the sense that I think Randy Brown is rightly favored in the spot. Muslim Salikov, not a bad fighter, but not a fighter that I look to get behind. Typically speaking, he came into the UFC a little bit older in his career, and I think he's been match made accordingly. I think when you look throughout his UFC run, a lot of the times he's been fighting guys that are at a similar size that are willing to go out there and strike with him. And I think that in this spot, frankly, Randy Brown should take the path of least resistance and bring this guy to the ground because Randy's huge. Randy's just a very big guy for this welterweight division. A lot of times he's willing to stand at range, play the kicking games with people. And I think he could do that here and have success. But how does Muslim Salikov win this fight? He throws a big spinning kick, hits Randy Brown in the body, and Randy has a bad reaction, or he surprises him with the hands. He's a guy that's known for his striking, the king of Kung Fu. He's not the king of jiu-jitsu, right? He's the king of Kung Fu, right? He's got that Dagestani background. He looks like a guy that can maybe wrestle and grapple, but has that really been proven out in the UFC? Not really. And when it has been tested, it's looked quite lacking, let's say. So I do think Randy Brown has a path to an easy finish in this fight, which would be leveraging his massive size and grappling advantage and taking it to the ground. But I think if the fight plays out on the feet, could be a little bit closer, could be a little sweaty. The only criticism I have of Randy Brown, not the most durable fighter you've ever seen. He's a very good fighter, but you have seen a number of times throughout his career where durability has kind of bit him. Even that last fight shows as a submission loss. What did he forget how to do jiu-jitsu? No, he was rocked. He was wobbled. And then Jack just took an easy finish there. He snatched the neck. And I think that oftentimes people forget how easy it is to just take the neck if somebody's rocked. And I think that that's what we could see from Randy here as well. Let's say he doesn't pursue the fight on the ground. He might rock this guy. And then when Salikov is trying to do defensive reactions, he just says, you know what? I'm wrapping one arm around his neck and it's over. Because we've seen that from Randy before. Very opportunistic, one arm rear naked choke. Not many people have the anatomy to do that, right? Physically, they can't pull it off. He can. And he could do it here. You look back, the last guy that was a similar size was Ricky Rainey way back in the day, not the same quality of skill. So Randy Brown, he's never had this size advantage on an opponent in the UFC. I think he's fallen on some grenades for them. So you look at the matchmaking he's got since JDM, Wellington Turman, this one. I think they were disappointed he didn't finish Turman. I know I was. But in this spot, I feel like this is a fight where we could see Randy come and realize that finishing potential.
All right. Yeah. For me, I like Brown as well. I actually really like what Johnny said, that round 3 decision. I'm going to be hunting that prop over there. Maybe the decision prop, but like Liam said, I can see a finish coming from Brown. Salikov does tend to slow down. Not going to lie though, the money line kind of had me interested in Salikov at plus 220, minus 260 Brown. I personally feel that it's a bit wide. Brown, it's not entirely reliable. It's pretty unreliable, to be honest. He is good at range and all of that, but sometimes you can close the distance. You can find him. You can back him up, cut off the cage. And Salikov can do those things. I hate the kicks. I really don't like spinning kicks, fancy kicks. If you can mix it into your game, sure. But if that's primarily what you're doing, not a huge fan. And the main thing of why I couldn't back Salikov, although I do think the line is off, is the output. He almost doesn't throw his hands at all. And it's just concerning. A guy like Randy Brown, he's going to be hard to hit as it is, because he moves a lot, uses his range really well. And I just have a hard time seeing Salikov finding too much success. I think he's going to whiff with all of his spinning stuff. I don't see that landing against Randy Brown too much. The hands might work. I think his hands are super underrated, but they're underrated because he's not throwing them and we're not seeing it often. He's got power. I think the knockout is live for Salikov as well. I think that's a possibility. I know that Brown can wrestle. I'm not entirely sold that he's going to be able to do it against Salikov. Salikov's got pretty good takedown defense. Dalby got those 2 takedowns, but that was much later in the fight, at round 2, round 3, or when he got those takedowns. I don't really think that's where Brown's going to be winning it. I think we're going to see this be on the feet primarily. Maybe Brown does some clinch work. I could see that, trying to get the takedowns. If he does get it down, the back takes clean. I could see him maybe taking the back, putting him in a bad position. But yeah, I'll pick Randy Brown. I just don't really think you can touch this money line. But a round 3 decision prop, that's going to have my attention at a decent price. How about you, Tyler?
Yeah, this is it's a fight that I actually struggled to make a pick on, honestly, because I won't be surprised at all if Salikov goes out there and just wrecks him in the first round, because Randy Brown could be wrecked in the first round by a guy like Salikov with that elite striking that he has, because he is a very, very talented striker. But at the same time, all the physical advantages, the youth, the height, the reach, those are going to help Randy Brown maintain his distance, you'd imagine. And I do think he's obviously the better grappler once the fight gets to the mat. I will say that Salikov does have good takedown defense. He's got pretty good takedowns of his own, but he doesn't really need to use them and probably doesn't use them very often in this fight anyway, because Randy Brown's going to be the better, grappler on the mat. So I lean Randy Brown, but I've just passed on this one. I couldn't talk myself into either side. And kind of like Mike said, if the money line kind of made me somewhat interested in playing the Salikov side, just because I am not sold on Randy Brown, and I do think Salikov is very live. But I'm going to take Randy Brown, but I just passed on this one.
Fair game. All right, let's move on to another one. This one's had pretty much a complete split on Twitter. I'm seeing early in the week, or like a few weeks ago, Budai. Recently, a lot of love on Gaziev, but we've got Shamil Gaziev versus Martin Budai. Gaziev 11-0, undefeated, 33 years old, 6'4" with a 78-inch reach. Budai 13-1-0. He's 32, 1 year younger, same height, 1-inch reach disadvantage. Liam, why don't you start us off here?
Yeah, this is a fight where I don't have the strongest feelings. Last time out, I was pretty bullish on Gaziev winning by sub and the fight ending by sub against Greg Velasco. And in that fight, I felt like I was vindicated with the ends by sub call because Velasco takes his back while he's completely rocked. And you look at that fight, and I think that his attributes, his positive ones, are on display in that fight, right? He's got big power in his hands. He doesn't completely panic if he's put in a bad situation, and he can finish you, right? So those are good attributes to have at heavyweight. On the other side, Martin Budai, I kind of called the sub prop too early for him, right? I bet it against Lucas Bresky at plus 800, didn't come through. And so I then laid off as he goes out there and easily gets it in the first round in his next fight. It's like that for me was regrettable. And I do think he's getting better over time. He's a big guy for heavyweight, strong and physical. But the problem for me is just absorbing a ton of strikes, and at heavyweight, that bill will come due eventually. This is a guy that could knock you out. So Shamil Gaziev, right? Undefeated fighter, plus money by his name. Do I understand why people are taking that shot? 100%. This is Dagestani's at plus money. What? It's like that doesn't happen very often. So I get why people's ears perk up, but I also do think of myself, the ABCs say always bet on cardio. So I understand why the other guy's favored. It's like we know Budai can fight 15 hard minutes in the UFC. We've seen him take 100 significant strikes, keep coming forward, keep trying to fight. So if he doesn't get knocked out, we kind of know he can push and keep going. Whereas on the Gaziev side, we've seen him struggle in the fights that got extended. Most of them didn't. So I do think he's got a good athletic pedigree. He's got a decent enough set of skills, but he did look like he was having half a heart attack after a 2-minute fight on the Contender Series. So I'm like, this is a guy that's got clear skill. He's got an athletic ceiling for sure, but I just think of him as a guy that has a lot still to prove. So for me, it feels like a toss-up. I think people on either side are going to feel vindicated when they win their bets here, but I do think there's a lot of unknowns coming into this one, so probably going to keep my hands clean of it.
Yeah, not a bad fight to stay away from. For me, I had to take the plus money on Gaziev. I think there's just a lot of upside. I love his grappling. I'm seeing people say he's a bad wrestler. I think they're mistaking that for maybe being in bad position sometimes on the ground. But offensively wrestling, getting guys to the ground, he's very good. And I like his striking. To me, he's not just a guy who's coming out here and all he can do is wrestle. I think he can strike as well. Good power. Looking at their striking, honestly, and comparing it, I think they're very similar in the way they strike. I just think Gaziev has a little bit more power. And the thing with Budai is we're all guessing. Literally anybody betting on this fight is guessing on what his takedown defense will look like because it's never actually been tested. No one's really shooting on him. You run back the regional tape, it never happens. I think I saw one fight where he got shot on. He did end up in a bad position on the ground with Kelleher, if I'm not mistaken, but he's not getting taken down. So we don't really know. I'm fairly confident a guy like Gaziev can take down pretty much anybody. So I'm not entirely too concerned about that. I do like his ground game a lot. Yeah, Velasco got him in a bad position. Velasco's also a grappling heavy guy. Rider University represent Jersey. But I don't really like if Gaziev takes him down. What are people imagining? Are they imagining that Budai is going to do the same thing Velasco did and take his back? I don't see it. Maybe a Kimura. Okay. Maybe, but he just got that on Parisian. I'm assuming that's why people are thinking that. For me, it seems like a pretty clear play on the underdog. And people are talking shit about his win over Kirill Kornilov. Dude is 6'5", massive, Like, I think he was 13-0-1 going into that fight. Since then, he's winning his fights as well. Dude is legit and would probably beat everybody that Budai's beat and possibly Budai himself. So just some MMA math to throw in there too, because people are shitting on his opponents for some reason. Meanwhile, Budai's over here fighting Jake Collier, Chris Barnett, Lukas Bresky, and people are saying, oh, he's got so much good UFC experience. Kind of hypocritical if you ask me. I think Gaziev's going to win this. I think he's going to take it to the ground, and whether it's a TKO, ground and pound, or submission, doesn't matter to me. I did play the sub prop at plus 900, played it small, but I can see it going either way. Give me Shamil, though. How about you, Tyler?
Yeah, this is, as I kind of said in the back, there's one fight on this card I'm just not looking forward to. It's this one. I mean, this fight's terrible. I don't want to watch it. I want to watch it because it's a fight, but like, as far as like pay-per-view quality, it's a horrible fight. I think it was EQ in the comments in the live chat said that fight goes to decision. I don't mind that if you get good line on it. The over 1.5 feels good to me. Fat heavyweights usually go over 1.5, and these guys to me constitute fat heavyweights. So I understand why people are picking Gaziev or Gaziev or whatever, however you pronounce it. I get it, but he's making his UFC debut, and he hasn't really beat anybody that good. Velasco, I got an acquaintance who fought Velasco, lost to him, but my acquaintance also isn't like a top. He's not ever making it to UFC either, so it makes sense. But Velasco's not that good. He's okay. So for him to look good against Velasco is one thing, but then to look good against somebody in the UFC like Budai, who's all right, is going to be a different story, especially if he gets tired. Both guys are going to get tired. I feel like we're going to get a lot of just hugging each other against the cage. Over sounds cool. Goes to decisions a little more risky because one of them could just fall over dead at the end of the second round or in the third. They're both going to be very tired. But one thing I will say is that if I have to pick someone in this fight, I'm going to side with Budai. And the reason is because I don't like backing guys who are making a UFC debut when they haven't proven themselves on the regional scene. And I don't know that Gaziev has. So I'm gonna pick Budai for the sake of a pick. Somebody in my comments in my video said that, oh, you lost me when you picked Budai. And I was like, man, I don't know how anybody's so confident in this fight to be like, oh yeah, that was it. That's where I was done. But yeah, no, for me, I'll take Budai because I have to make a pick, but I don't feel good about it.
Can't believe you picked the favorite, Tyler. That's insane. Never heard that before. Johnny, how about you, brother?
Yeah, I get all your points, everybody's points here. I'm just going with the underdog because I just think the money is right. I think he's the more dangerous guy. I like betting on the more dangerous fighter, especially if they're underdogs here in a low-level heavyweight fight. Anything can happen. Like, I think that's just the play here, or just pass, because I'm not that impressed with Budai. The Lukas Bresky fight still sticks out in my mind. He lost that fight, and I just kind of gave it to him, and he was slowing down as the fight went on in that fight too. So to me, grappling upside, wrestling upside with Shamil. He also has the power advantage in a heavyweight fight. Like, that's something you like. All three things check the box right there. Yeah, if this fight gets extended, maybe Budai has a better shot to win the later rounds, but I think Shamil would be fine for at least a round, maybe a round and a half. But you also have to remember, too, with the Dana White Contender Series fights, like, those guys want to go out there. Their nerves are going. They want to get a finish because they want a contract. I'm sure his freaking adrenaline was pumping so quickly, and he was so happy that he won. So his interview came, and he's just like hyperventilating because he's like, I won. Oh, my God. What do I say? I don't know English maybe that well. All this stuff is probably running through his brain. So to me, I'll give him a pass on that. But if he does it in this fight, then I know. You know what I mean? One of those things. So give me Shamil. I got him at plus 145. I think he gets it done by some kind of finish. I'll say within the first round or two.
You really had to remind me about Bresky, Johnny. You had to do that to me.
Yeah.
Because I had
it wasn't good.
Plus 250. I had Bresky. I put 2 units on it. I was so confident in him because Budai, in my eyes, is a clinch merchant. And that sucked, man.
Yeah.
But all right, we can move on to the next fight. We've got Andre Fely versus Lucas Almeida. Fely 22-10-0, 33 years old, 5'11" with a 74-inch reach. Almeida 14-2-0, 32. He's 1 year younger, same height, 3-inch reach disadvantage for him. I'll start us off for this one. I like Almeida. I really honestly do think this is a great fight for him. Andre Fely, he's a great fighter, extremely well-rounded. But that chin seems to be slowly going. Brito caught him, hurt him big time. Nathaniel Wood, great fighter, but he's not a 145er. He's a 135er. I don't love the move up and wait for him, and he was able to knock down Fely. I think a guy like Almeida, he's one of these guys like Petrino, where it doesn't make sense that they have good cardio. It doesn't make any sense. They're ripped, jacked to the gills. They throw power in every single strike. They don't know what it means to just throw without a ton of power behind it. And somehow they can still go 3 rounds. They can still keep a heavy pace. 100 significant strikes now in 2 fights for Almeida, against Zelluber and against my guy Trezano. So that's a big upside for me. He's got the power. He's got that cardio. He's got really good pace. He's got good striking. Nice 1-2s down the pipe. Keeps it straight. Jesus Christ, great hat speed. You have to do that to me. And I just think that sooner or later he will crack the chin of Fely. But here's my hesitation and why I haven't gotten to the bet. It's the grappling. And I get some people saying, oh, people only think that because of this Pat Sabatini fight. But look, at the end of the day, he can be taken down. Zelluber took him down. We've seen it on the regionals. And Fely can wrestle. And Fely's not a guy who can only wrestle. He can strike as well. He can make you have to think about the striking, and then he'll duck down, take you down. So for me, it's kind of hard to get there with Almeida just because I am concerned, and it would really, really suck if he's beating him up on the feet and then just gets taken down over and over again and can't get back up. I do wish I played the decision no action prop for Almeida. It was -125 when it opened. I saw it. I stared at it. I didn't play it just because I was thinking, Fely's got finishing upside too. He has power. He hits very hard also, and he's by no means a bad striker. So I hesitated, didn't play it. I wish I did. The people who did are pretty sharp. I like it quite a bit because if you tell me right now, Mike, 100% certainty this fight goes to decision, I'm going to lean Fely, although I do think Almeida can still win as well because I said he does have good cardio. But if you tell me there's a finish, I'm going to assume it's probably Almeida. So I like Almeida to win. Will I bet him? We'll see. But how about you, Tyler?
Yeah, it should be Fely's fight to lose because he is the more well-rounded fighter. He's fought the better level of competition. He's got, he's still young, although he's been cracked quite a few times, all that good stuff. I can't bet on him. His first 3 fights, I just got to pass on all these as far as like picking a money line. But Fely should win, but I can't bet on him in this because you're right. He can get cracked. He can get knocked out. The reason I think he and game plan is going to be a big part of it for Fely. But the reason I think that he does have a good path is for Almeida, a lot of times to defend takedowns, he just tries to strike and he just tries to punch his way out of it, to counter a takedown instead of sprawl and then get positioned and then start brawling. He just skips the sprawl step and just starts throwing shots as you're trying to shoot in, or he'll throw a knee as you're trying to shoot in, and that's great if it lands, but if it doesn't, you get taken down, and he's been taken down in the past. And when he gets to the mat, he's got okay jiu-jitsu. People say he doesn't. He does. He's got some good stuff off his back, but yeah, he's not going to catch Fely when he's throwing stuff up off his back. So Fely should win, but yeah, I got to pass. It's just one of those fights.
All right. How about you, Johnny?
Yeah, this is my first leg of the neck tattoo parlay of the card. So I'm going with Fely here. Like everyone said here so far, I think he's just the better overall fighter. I like his wrestling upside if he uses it, which I do think he will, because that's the biggest disadvantage for Almeida is his takedown defense. And if he gets his back to the ground, he just doesn't get up. I know it was Pat Sabatini and he's a different kind of wrestler and grappler, but I mean, he was struggling bad, and I think Fely's good enough to at least keep him down, control him down, win the minutes that way if he needs to. And I think the striking is pretty close. I mean, maybe you would give Almeida a little bit more finishing equity if you want to say, but I think Fely's just as good with the finishing. Can get a finish too here. He's gonna have a little bit longer reach as well. He can be a little hittable. That's what worries me just a touch is the chin, obviously, but. I think if he gets in trouble, I think he's going to use his wrestling here, and I think he can get the takedowns, win the minutes, win the rounds that way. And I do see this fight going to decision. Actually, I don't think anyone's going to get each other out. Maybe Fely gets knocked down once, but I mean, I think he can still win the other 2 rounds here. So, give me Fely. Why not? Throwing it out there.
All right, 2-1 so far. How about you, Liam?
This is a fight where something I've been doing a lot more lately, fellas, is if I don't feel super bullish about which side's going to win, then I start angling myself towards whether or not I think the fight's going to go the distance. And in this case, I don't think the fight's going the distance, and I can make my case for why. When you look at a guy like Andre Fely, I've never missed a bet on an Andre Fely fight. I've only fired twice. I've fired against him both times. It was Bryce Mitchell at chalk, and it was Joe Anderson Brito at plus 250 for 4 units. Massive hit for me there. But I was big on Joe Anderson Brito in ways that I can't be on Lucas Almeida. And the reason being, number one, price, right? It's $1 different, $1 shorter for a worse fighter, in my view, in Lucas Almeida. And on the Almeida side, what's the positives? The guy hits like a truck, right? He's a very powerful puncher. I do think he's a really difficult guy to deal with for some people on the feet because he throws hammers. And frankly, I think the matchmaking with Sabatini was like, yo, can Sabatini deal with this guy who could throw hammers at him? And what happened was Sabatini took him down every second of the fight and then just grabbed a hold of his wrist and beat him to a bloody pulp before submitting him. So that's the other thing that goes unnoted about that fight is like he got beat up really, really bad before he got submitted. So like, is his grappling as bad, or is it just like he was in bad positions, he got the tar beaten out of him, and then his grappling looked like it was non-existent? I'm not sure where that like gap lies, because there's the old expression in jiu-jitsu, you take a black belt, you punch him in the face one time, he's a brown belt, right? And do we need to go on? It's like he got 68 significant strikes to the face before he got submitted in that fight. So how bad is the jiu-jitsu there? I'm not really sure. I think that Andre Fely's path to winning this fight and winning it inside the distance is on the back, right? We saw against Bill Algeo, very good black belt. He's on his back. He's dominating. He's controlling from there. And then he's stunned at the end that the judges almost took it away from him, right? It's like, I'm in the most dominant position in fighting. What more do you want from me? But that's kind of what Andre Fely has dealt with, is the fact that he takes some damage. He wears it on his face, right? And even in fights where he's having a lot of success, he can sometimes let it slip away. His finishing instincts aren't always there. And so sometimes he lets people off the hook. Against Almeida, if he's cracking this guy, or if he's just out wrestling him, out grappling him the whole fight, I think Almeida will break. And I think he'll be able to get him out of there, submit him later on in the fight. We kind of saw that against Pat. He ran out of answers. He got beat up, he got mugged, and he got taken out. And I think that on the other side, if Andre Fely wants to make this another hoedown on the feet, we saw with Joe Anderson Brito, one big punch from a big Brazilian guy who's standing across from you, and you might be having a whole different conversation, right? And Joe Anderson Brito could bail himself out on the ground. We've seen that against higher level guys. I don't know that about Almeida, so that's why I can't bet him on the money line here. But I do think he's a killer be killed quintessential guy. I think Zell Huber took a little while to find himself in the octagon. We kind of seen that now, the finishing instincts coming out from him. But he had been very tentative and very hesitant in some of his fights in the past. I feel like Andre Fely's not that. Right. He's the opposite of that. He's been in there a million times. He's fought a million guys, not afraid to throw down. So for me, I think somebody's going to get it in this one. And I do think that Andre Fely should win, but should and will is a much different thing. So I'm not parting with my money. I wish everybody the best of luck. But if I'm looking at anything here, it's violence. I do think somebody's getting finished.
I like that. I also think we're probably not going to see the scorecards personally. But all right, let's move on. Next up, we've got Tagir Ulanbekov versus Cody Durden. This is a fight I am looking forward to. Ulanbekov, 14-2-0, 32 years old, 5'7" with a 70-inch reach. Durden, 16-4-1. He's going to be the same age, same height, but give up 3 inches in reach. Tyler, why don't you start us off, brother?
Great. So I've bet on Durden in every single one of his UFC fights outside of his short notice matchup against Chris Gutierrez. That was the only one I didn't. And he's done pretty well because he's been an underdog in, I'm pretty sure, every single fight, at least at one point. I think he was the favorite against Bays, but then a bunch of people thought it was oh, yeah, Bays is going to get this because he's like somehow going to rally since his wife left him or whatever. And there was the narrative. Everybody was like, he's just going to be able to do it because he wants it and stuff. It was really stupid. But so I was able to get Durden at plus money in that fight too against JP Bays. That's insane. But anyway, so I bet him in every single one of his fights outside. I've lost a couple, Flick and Mikhaev, but he's been very profitable. And I was able to get him again at plus money, and I can't pass it up. The guy is fantastic at just wrestling people until they just can't do it anymore. And I understand Tagir Ulanbekov is very dangerous, and I might play the Ulanbekov sub if I can find a good line on it, because I think if he wins, it's a sub. I think he's going to get a guillotine, and he's probably going to have to put Durden to sleep because, as we saw, Durden's getting better with his resilience in submissions. Because before, if he was caught in submission, he tapped out like you do a lot of the time. But now we're at a high level in the UFC, and Durden's now figuring out, oh, hey, you don't necessarily have to tap anymore if I'm in a submission, and I can somehow find my way out, like he did against Hadley, comes through and wins that fight as an underdog again, cash in another ticket for me. I freaking love it. But so I bet Durden at plus 160. It was fantastic. I wanted to add more. I also threw a quarter of a unit on him to win by decision because I do think that's probably how he wins. But yeah, so Durden's the pick, but that's where I'm at.
What's Durden by decision? Plus 200. Not bad. How about you, Johnny?
I'm also on the Durden side as well. I was there live to see Hadley versus Durden, and that was literally probably the best fight of the card. Everybody was like going crazy, and he got out of that submission of Hadley a couple times, the really, really bad one. I was like, it's done, and like somehow he got out of it. It's crazy. So yeah, like you said, Tyler, his resilience is getting better. I think he's improving with a little bit of everything in every fight. Like his striking's looking better. His submission defense, even though he does put himself in some bad spots every now and then, is getting better. But to me, like Tagir, I mean, he's good too, good wrestling, solid striking, but his takedown defense, I think it's just okay. And I think the way Durden chain wrestles and just goes for wrestling and tries to go for the takedowns all day, and he has the cardio to do it. I think that's going to wear on Tagir a little bit, kind of like in the Tim Elliott fight. And I know Tim Elliott cheated his ass off to win that fight, and he did. But I mean, Durden, I mean, I'm not saying he's going to cheat, but he has that like Tim Elliott in a way where he's going to do what he needs to do to get this fight done. And I like that in fighters. He's a dog, and I think he can make it dirty. And I think he can get this one done by a close decision. I don't see a finish unless it's going to be a Tagir submission, like a guillotine, like Tyler said. But I like Durden's chances at plus money. I think he's a dog. I think he's a good bet.
All right. How about you, Liam?
Yeah, I think that Cody Durden is a live dog this weekend. I didn't bet on it. I haven't bet on this fight or many of the fights on the prelims or anything, but I'm just looking at it and I say to myself, Tagir, what does he do well? He's a pretty, well-rounded fighter, but I do feel like his physicality maybe isn't always there for the division. He's kind of a lankier guy, which sometimes can take away from your strength. And I do think a guy like Cody Durden, we've seen a market improvement from when he was competing, I believe, at ATT Atlanta. Nothing wrong with that, right? The Lima brothers, good guys have trained out of there. But I just think that when you're a flyweight, when you're really trying to get in there with a particular set of bodies, right? American Top Team has world-class bodies at every weight class, right? So you could just get that good work in. I think the training partners has a lot to do with pushing Cody to get better cardio as well. Something that he needed to improve. To your point as well, I thought that was a great point, Tyler. The submission defense from Cody Durden is something that's markedly improved over time. Is that to say it's lights out? I mean, no, because like anybody, even a really good grappler can get caught by somebody who's good at catching submissions. And one thing I've noted, the MMA meta is becoming way more aggressive about hunting the ninja choke, because if you get it, it's a wrap. You get it and the fight's over right after. It's like, it's a game-changing maneuver. And I do point back to one fight where I called this before, and I'm not saying that this is going to happen here, but this is my concern, right? And why I didn't bet it yet and why I didn't fire. I want to look back at some of the specific grappling entanglements is sometimes if you want to stick to somebody like Glue all night, if they commit to my answer is I'm going to catch your neck in a choke, I know that that's not the highest EV strategy, but we're seeing that now that people don't just guard pull guillotines. If I can catch your neck down for 1 second and lock it here, it's over, right? So I don't need to guard pull. I don't need to put myself in a bad situation. I can put your head down, catch it, and the fight's over. Myra Buena Silva did this to Holly Holm as well, right? So women's MMA, men's MMA, but Said Jacobe Rakhmonov is considered one of the best grapplers in the division, right? He ended up getting cut from the UFC through no fault of his own, right? He's got good talent, but you look at what happened in that fight. He stuck to him like glue the whole time. He spent a lot of energy, but then because he was a little bit tired and he was sticking to him like glue, he was able to catch his neck. And as soon as he caught his neck, it was a problem. That is where I see as the only potential problem here for Durden. It's like everybody knows what Durden wants to do. He wants to wrestle him. He wants to grapple him. So if you're Tagir's camp, what are you doing? You're drilling. How are we going to react? What are we going to do? And I know for a fact, Said Nurmagomedov had one answer. It was that choke. And eventually he got it. So I'm just like, in this fight, I kind of see there's going to be a lot of grappling here. I think it's going to come down to will and who could break who. I think that if the fight sees the scorecards, Cody Durden's getting his hand raised. But I just have that worry that somewhere along the way, we could see one of those problems rear their head. When I have bet Cody Durden in the past, it was against Jimmy Flick. And I was like, man, this is a winnable matchup for Cody. He's got the wrestling to keep it upright. He's got the power to knock him out. He ends up grappling. It was literally the craziest transition, too. It's a flying triangle. Like, that's a rare submission. But that's the kind of thing where I'm like, I've seen him get memed before, so it could happen again. That's my source of hesitation. But I think Cody has made improvements. So I'm going to trust him right now with my preliminary pick here. But I didn't bet my hard-earned money yet. So,
all right. Yeah. Speaking of Salikov Rakhmonov, though, my guy's got a karate combat fight this Friday. Would like to wish him luck. Dude's awesome. I hope he ends up back in the UFC. But looking forward to see him fighting karate combat. That's cool, too. Yeah, I'm going to make it 4 for 4. I'm on Durden as well. I played him at the worst possible line. I played him at plus 105 for 1 unit. I don't know why I felt that people would bet Durden. I mean, it seems like a lot of us are on Durden. I thought the money would come in on him. Turns out money's coming in on the other way, and I understand it. You know, they're looking at Cody Durden, a guy who's grapple heavy. They're saying he's fighting a Dagestani who has a submission recently. He has good subs. Probably going to lose. I get it, but I disagree. For me, it's so easy to bet on guys like Durden, guys like JSP, rip in the last fight, but usually works out. Fluffy Hernandez is another one. Merab is another one. The guys who just won't stop, as if like they're going to die if they stop. They just keep going nonstop. They'll keep going and going and going. And if it doesn't work the first time, it'll work the 47th time, but it'll work and they'll get it anyways. I love that. And a guy like Tagir is kind of the opposite, where he will break. He will lose hope. You see him start to decline as the fight goes on if he's not getting his way. And I think either guy can get takedowns here. I think both guys will probably get takedowns here. But who's not going to stop? Durden. Who's going to bring the pace, whether they're on the ground or on the feet? Durden. Who can I trust not to break? Durden. So as an underdog, it's a really easy bet to make. Not saying he's going to easily cash. I don't think so. Otherwise, I'd have a max bet. But I do think he's a very solid bet as an underdog, especially now that he's like plus 140, 150. I'd be all over that if I didn't already play the plus 105 like a dummy. And part of me does want to add to it, honestly. Part of me does want to add, maybe hedge with an Ulanbekov sub, but we'll see. It's been a shaky year for me, so I'm being very careful, very hesitant, careful. Moving on, though. We've got Alonzo Menafield versus Dustin Jacobe. Menafield 14-3-1, 36 years old. He's 6 foot tall with a 76-inch reach. Jacobe on the other side, 19-7-1. He's going to be 1 year younger, 3 inches taller, and have the same reach. Johnny, why don't you start us off, brother?
Well, yeah, man, this one for me was a little bit tough because I can see a world where either guy wins, and you have the power in Menafield. He's not the most technical, but it just takes one punch. It's going to knock him out. Can wrestle, doesn't really, slows down a bit. Jacobe, tons of volume, great kickboxer, does have some power too. He's shown it as of late. But, as the fight goes on too, he can kind of, I don't want to say lose rounds, but he slows down a bit. Like in the third round, a couple of his fights hasn't looked all that fantastic either. But I'm going to go with Jacobe just because of the volume. I think he can stay safe, at least in the first round. But I think after that, man, anything can happen, and especially the third round. Both guys I think are going to be a little bit tired, but I just favor Jacobe's volume. I'm not going to bet this fight, though, because I'm just scared of Menafield's power, really, honestly. And I can see him knock out Jacobe in one punch. So I'm just going to stay away, but I think Jacobe wins this one.
All right. How about you, Liam?
Yeah, I agree that this is a pretty volatile matchup for me. It's a tale of two fighters when I'm looking at my Bet MMA history results.
Mhm.
I've done very well betting Alonzo Menafield fights for and against. I had OSP the night he knocked him out. But then I've also had, -5 units, I think, on Dustin Jacobe lifetime. So just not very good at betting Dustin Jacobe fights, and mostly trying to fade him throughout the way. I've always thought that he's got a pretty decent skill set, but a chin that has been like through the ringer. So I've always just been expecting like chin regression from him that hasn't really materialized too often. And so we've seen a couple times he's been hurt, rocked, but he just finds a way back into fights most of the time. Pretty gritty guy, pretty durable in that way. But Alonzo Menafield, Atomic, I think is his nickname. Fitting, right? He can hit you with one punch, change the fight. But the other thing is, there's really not much of a submission game to speak of. on the Dustin Jacobe side, right? That's just not what he does. He's a kickboxer. He goes out there to kickbox. He goes out there to defend shots if you try and wrestle. Whereas Alonzo Menafield does have a couple wins by submission, several in the UFC now. And he's a guy that's big, physical, and strong, right? So I think at light heavyweight, big, physical, strong guys can't get on top, right? You look at Iwan Kutalaba. Is there a ton of sophistication in his wrestling? No. Was he able to get on top for various points? Sure. And did he hurt Dustin Jacobe? Yeah, he had him on death's door in that first round. That's why it was a draw, because Dustin Jacobe then just like nothing ever happened, comes back out round 2 and 3 like nothing ever changed. So he's a very consistent guy round over round. But I just think of Dustin Jacobe potentially getting hurt in this fight or getting grounded in this fight as the path for Alonzo Menafield to look like a live underdog here. So similar age, there's not really one thing that sets these two guys apart. I think Dustin Jacobe, clearly the more skilled guy on the feet, but skills don't always pay the bills. At light heavyweight, sometimes you get cracked on the jaw, and that's all that matters. So I don't feel bullish on playing this fight, certainly not at the price range for Dustin Jacobe, but I think he's a deserved favorite. I would just put it closer to the -150 range.
All right. Yeah. For me, I'm also on Jacobe. Not enough to bet him at -300. Also, after you said atomic for Menafield's nickname, I wanted to know what Hanyak means.
I think it's like a kid that's like annoying in a Hungarian household or something. I heard this on a UFC broadcast once, like a wild child or something.
I looked it up. It says Korean form of traditional medicine in which many organisms such as dried seahorses are used. If that's it, how do you put that together? If I was ever a fighter, that's some shit I would have done. Come up with the most random thing possible. Korean medicine made out of seahorses and just run with it. But in terms of the actual matchup, because Jacobe clearly wins the nickname battle, first thing I want to talk about is what the hell is this situation with, like, people are running to play the sub, running to play the submission prop, and it just doesn't make any sense to me. The line is crashing on the sub prop. The KO prop is sitting at +395. Nobody's touching it at all. Doesn't make any sense. I understand that he just got the sub against Jimmy Crute, but Jimmy Crute shoots nonstop, got hurt, shot, got caught. Other sub in the UFC was Fabio Charant. God bless his soul, but he's no longer with the UFC.
Don't you disparage this man's name. No, I'm playing.
He's got an even better nickname, but at the end of the day, he's not in the UFC anymore. That doesn't tell me that, he's going to come in here, he's going to submit Dustin Jacobe. Styles make fights. Jacobe's a kickboxer. You will not catch him dead shooting. Guillotine is more than likely not going to happen unless Menafield just bends him down and then takes it. At range, it's Jacobe all day. He's very difficult to hit. He moves constantly, a lot of lateral movement, uses his range really well. The jab really, really, really well. Just like everything about his striking, I like backing him in general. Often you get close lines, and not this time, he's -300. But often you get close lines, so I like backing the guy. But I just can't do it at -300. Menafield can knock out probably pretty much anybody in this division. He hits very hard. If he was a little bit less plotty and moved his feet more, I'd be more confident in playing the knockout prop. The reason I haven't done so yet is just because he is very plotty. He doesn't move very well, and he might have a really hard time finding Jacobe. I don't really think it's going to be easy for him, but it only takes one punch for him. So I might end up at the knockout prop. I'll see if FanDuel gives me something even better. If I'm getting +450, +500 on a Menafield knockout prop, you're kind of forcing my hand at that point. So I'm going to pick Jacobe. Can't play him at -300, though. How about you, Tyler?
Yeah. So real quick, you mentioned Karate Combat. I gotta say, I haven't seen any lines on it yet. There is a guy named Shannon Hudson who is fighting Chinzo Machida. I happen to know Shannon personally. I've worked out with him before. I think he beats Chinzo. So if they give him as an underdog, it's a bet I'm going to throw out there for the Patreon folks. So now everybody in this chat gets it as well. If they give us
lines.
Underdog, when did they come out? What do you got?
All right. What's your boy's name?
Shannon Hudson.
Hudson. Oh, wow. A lot of big names are fighting. Hudson's the underdog at +170.
Done. I'm betting that. That's a good bet.
Right,
he's a former IKF world champion kickboxer. And the reason I think money would be on the Chinzo side is because his last name is Machida, but he's the lesser Machida. And I think Shannon gets it done. So that's a breakdown for a fight that is not on this card. So let's go to this card. We got Menafield and Jacobe. Okay, we're on that one now. I wanted to play Menafield because the line is fantastic. I think I bet Menafield big against Jimmy Crute in both fights because he's just better than Jimmy Crute. First fight, obviously, it was a draw that sucked, but he won that fight outside of the point deduction. Beat the brakes off Jimmy Crute again in the next one. I think he's better than Jimmy Crute by a landslide, but the problem is I don't know that he's better than Dustin Jacobe in enough areas. He's way better. If he can get on top of Dustin Jacobe, his ground and pound is absolutely brutal, and I think he can put Jacoby's head through the canvas. However, at range, Jacoby's a far better striker. Maybe the power goes to Menafield, but my goodness, Jacoby's one of the better kickboxers, skill for skill, in the entire division by miles, right? And I think Jacoby's gonna be able to keep it range and use his striking and also his takedown defense. So Jacobe was in the UFC before. Takedown defense wasn't good. That's why he was out of the UFC. After that, went back to kickboxing, eventually comes back to MMA, gets back to the UFC, and his takedown defense is a lot better. Now, sure, he can still get taken down, but it's a lot better. It's much improved. And what he changed is he makes people pay for the takedowns now where he didn't before. And when he stuffs the takedown, he goes immediately into just striking back. So quick sprawl or stuff, gets the underhooks, and then just starts swinging shots, but in beautiful combination. And I think that is going to be something that's going to make it really tough for Menafield to want to keep shooting on him. And I think that's why he's probably not going to be using his wrestling to the extent that I would need him to in order to really back him here. So I'm going to pass on this fight. Also, Effie, dude, way to go, getting the numbers up, my guy. But anyway, yeah, so I'm going to pass on the fight from a bet, but I'm going to pick Jacobe to get the win. The odds are too far for me to bet on him. This is a fun fight, though, so it's worth just watching as a fan. I do enjoy it. I do think this is going to be an enjoyable fight.
Hell yeah. Is this from any other source other than Chael yet? Because that's what I'm waiting for. But
Jesse on Fire said it, but that you can't. That guy's a doofus.
Good thing I don't have a bet on that fight.
Right.
I'd be mad.
I don't really know how you could have a bet on that fight, to be honest. What's up, Liam?
Mike, if I could interject for 1 second, I have the exact definition of a Hanyak from Dustin Jacobe. He said it's a Polish soldier, a rebel without a cause, an aggressive athlete, and his grandmother called him and his twin brother little Hanyaks when they were growing up. So there you have it. There's the inside source on Dustin Jacobe.
That is true. If you play Civ 3 or Civ 6 or whatever, you should know that.
Nah, I'm not going to accept that. I'm sticking to the traditional.
I do like yours better, Mike, though. I will say
I like the seahorse medicine way better, if you ask me.
He's now seahorse medicine Jacobe, if you ask me.
It's the only way I'm looking at him from now on. Dude's a goat. Okay, we can move on. Next up, we've got Casey O'Neill versus Ariane Lipsky. O'Neill 9-1-0, 26 years old. She's 5'6" with the 69-inch reach. Lipsky 16-8-0. She's 3 years older at 29. Same height, 2-inch reach disadvantage. Liam, why don't you start us off, brother?
Okay. Man, this is a fight I'm really not bullish on at all. Again, fighters I haven't done well on for 100, Alex. It's like I have not done very well betting on Casey O'Neill fights, that's for sure. I tried to fade her a few times coming into the UFC, and it's not like I didn't think she had some talent or upside, but she got here pretty young. She had 2 knockout losses on the amateurs that people didn't really see. So there was just some things where I was like, man, you know what? This girl's facing pretty soft competition. Shanna Dobson, what does that tell me, right? And she kept finding ways to win, right? I bet Antonina Shevchenko, close enough fight in the early going. She gets on top, fights over shortly thereafter. That's kind of the way her fights have went, right? She doesn't get on top of Jennifer Maia. Doesn't have any ability to really finish the fight, right? She's good on top and not as a pure jiu-jitsu player or something. She just can operate well on top in MMA. She hurts people. She's vicious for women's MMA. A lot of women's MMA fighters aren't that aggressive, right? She gets on top. She's trying to punch a hole in your head. She's trying to get to good positions and dominate you. I like to see that, right? I like aggression. But last time out, she dealt with the injury, right? So then she comes back. I thought she looked a little slow. I thought she looked a little reactive. Jennifer Maia, maybe people don't know this, has been cut from the organization as well. Former title challenger, but she's been let go. Her Instagram says former UFC fighter now. It's like she was, very recently in the organization, had this fight with Casey. That tells you who they wanted to win that fight, by the way. But when you go back and look, I do think to myself, man, they're putting Casey in there for this fight. And I think it is a test of sorts because it's like, if you can't get this girl to the ground, who's got a bunch of losses via TKO on the ground, then what are we really doing here? Maybe the knee is a bigger problem than we thought because we tried to have you clean up last time somebody that we wanted to end their contract. Didn't work out for us. So now we're giving you a fight where both girls have upside, right? Neither one of these girls is old, right? They're both young enough. They both have some experience here. Casey, some amateur experience. For Lipsky, she's done a lot more of it at the professional level, had some ups and downs. I think her ground game is a clear deficiency. But I also think the girl that we saw come out of the Nunes camp, come out of those Lioness training camps, was a lot more seasoned and wanted to be there more and looked like she was more aggressive and intense and ready to start the fight from the jump. So those are all a bunch of things that give me pause on a girl that's coming back here with a pretty decent layoff, some injuries, some things where she's pulled out of fights. Should she win? Yeah, absolutely. I just don't know that I feel the conviction that a lot of people do. I know some sharp guys with big bets on Casey O'Neill, full disclosure, but I don't feel very confident on this fight. I'm going to probably leave this one on the cutting room floor as well.
Yeah, this one's interesting for me. I mean, I had a lot to say about it on my stream. There's like a few things I want to point out. So first thing, I know O'Neill's striking defense says it's 58% on UFC stats, but I really don't think it's really that good. And you look at the numbers, right? You actually look at it fight by fight. The reason I think it's that high is because Roxanne Modafferi went 120 out of 358 and only landed 33 significant percent of her significant strikes. But then you look at the other fights, right? Antonina, 63% striking accuracy against her. Lara Procopio, 63% striking accuracy against her. Shauna Dobson, 57% striking accuracy against her. That's not good. And on the tape, it matches up because I'm seeing a very, very hittable person when I'm watching the tape. And Ariana Lipsky, she can crack. She can hit hard. She's got really good output, just as much as Casey. I think both of them are going to throw a ton of strikes. And for me, it just feels like it's going to be Lipsky landing harder, landing more significantly, and showing more damage on Casey O'Neill's face. And then the grappling, we're all talking about that. I hadn't even thought about the injuries and all of that. But for me, I'm watching it, right? And the only background I have to MMA is wrestling. That's the one thing I've done in my life. I did wrestle. I like to think I know some things. And, you break down a takedown, there's really like three parts to it, right? The entry, grabbing the actual legs or leg, depending how you want to do it, and then finishing it, whether it's pulling the legs towards you, going to the side with the single. Usually for a good takedown, you want those three things to look like one movement. 1, 2, 3, quick, bring them to the ground. I'm watching Casey O'Neill, and it seems like she's literally doing it step by step by step. She shoots, then she takes a second, she grabs the legs, then she takes a second, then she pulls in, and she finishes the takedown. Somebody like Lipsky, yeah, her takedown defense was abysmal for a while. Last 4 fights, I think it's like 24 for 24. She's defended every single one. Is it that impressive? Aldrich is a decent grappler. She did it against Gatto, who is a good grappler. So I think it's pretty good. And you can tell she kind of changed her style to do it. Her hands are like, they're not low. They're not high. They're like in the middle. And her first reaction every time she sees her opponents change levels is just those underhooks immediately. Just throws in the underhooks, tosses them off, and tries to counter. I feel like that's going to work against O'Neill because the takedowns just aren't seamless to me, at least. Add on the injury. I think those takedowns are going to be hard to get. So then you tell me this is going to be a fight on the feet. Lipsky's a plus 165 dog against somebody who's really hittable. I'm gonna want to play Lipsky. So I'm tempted at plus 165. I haven't done it yet, but I think I probably will. I just think it's a good underdog spot that makes sense to me. So that's what I'm going to be looking at. But how about you, Tyler?
Mike, I appreciate you for that. Thank you. This whole week I've been like, somebody just give me a reason to pick Lipsky. I want to pick Lipsky so freaking bad. I like Lipsky. I'm a big fan of hers. The queen of violence, but she's so inconsistent at times. And so I've been worried about it. And I actually, right before recording my video, I flipped from Lipsky to O'Neill. And I even cashed out a bet I had on Lipsky at like plus 175 because I figured it was because I wanted her to win that I was thinking that she was going to win. But Mike, you're making me feel good about it. Pinky in the chat, you did a good job too. Don't get me wrong. I appreciate it. But Mike still a show on this with the whole single leg breakdown thing. So Pinky, next time, that's what you got to do. Break down the single leg. But anyway, so for Casey, if she gets on top, Lipsky's done. Like she's just not going to be able to get back up. Maybe she gets a submission, but I don't think so. And I think she's going to get her head bounced off the canvas a lot of times. And she'll probably survive most of the early part of the fight. But it'll probably be kind of a mercy stoppage towards like in the later parts of the fight if O'Neill's been able to get those takedowns. However, if Lipsky can keep it on the feet like she has been in the last few fights, she's a better striker. She's legit like good striker, right? She fought over in Russia at whatever promotion that was, off the top of my head, I'm drawing a blank, and did pretty well over there, beating up girls that were supposed to be beating her. So like she's legit, and I want to back her so freaking bad, but like it's hard because I feel like I'm being biased. So technically my pick is Casey O'Neill still, because I haven't officially switched it, but there's a chance that by tomorrow you'll see a community post on my YouTube saying that I've switched my pick, and then I'll put it up on Twitter because it's that close. And what's the point spread? Anybody got a line on the point spread for Lipsky?
On it, Tyler. I'll get it for you.
You're the man. Because if that's plus money, I'll probably bet that, even if I don't switch the pick, and just hope that she wins. And if she doesn't, hope she can survive and probably win a round. Because I'm rooting for Lipsky. I want her to win. Casey O'Neill, she's fine. There's nothing wrong with her. There's nothing wrong with her. But I like Lipsky. So Casey O'Neill is regrettably right now the pick, but it might switch tomorrow.
Lipsky plus 3.5 is minus 155. They know what's up.
That's too freaking much. Whatever.
They know what's up. But all right, how about you, Johnny?
Yeah, this fight's there's just tons of red flags from both fighters, honestly. The pick for me, I'm not very confident is going to be O'Neill, only because I do favor, again, the volume that she does throw on the feet. Lipsky does have good striking too. I think she might be able to crack Casey O'Neill a little bit harder than O'Neill, but let's not forget though, Lipsky's striking defense isn't good at all either. She gets cracked a lot, and she just like goes back. Her head is back. She doesn't move her head at all, but she has shown, pretty good takedown defense in her last couple fights. I know she beat Gatto, which that was a very close fight. I thought it could have went either way, but it is what it is. And O'Neill's fighting Maya, who I think Maya's better than any of Lipsky's wins. So I'm just gonna throw it out there. I think this fight's super close. I'm just gonna go with the volume. I think O'Neill will just push forward more so, throw more volume, maybe land more. It might look better with the judges and just win a super close decision. I don't think O'Neill wrestles. I'll be honest with you. I think the knee is worrying enough to just stay away. And if it's a striking fight, I think it's going to be closer than it should be, because I think O'Neill, if she does use her wrestling, she should be able to get this one done a lot easier. But I don't trust it. Too many red flags. Stay away.
Well, you teed off the next fight perfectly, Johnny. Too many red flags. Cody Garbrandt versus Brian Kelleher. A fight that's screaming
Not
red
enough.
flag.
Sorry.
We got Cody Garbrandt, 13-5-0, 32 years old. He's 5'8" with a 65-inch reach. Kelleher, 24-14-0, 37. He's 5 years older, 2 inches shorter, and he's going to have a 1-inch reach disadvantage. I think this is about the right time to spark up. I might need it for this one.
Hey.
I was waiting for the right fight, and I realized it's my turn to start this one, so I said, fuck it. Look, Garbrandt should win. He's a way better fighter, all right? If this was like 3 years ago, he'd be like minus 500. Unfortunately, I don't know what's happening anymore. The dude has lost it completely, even in his win against Trevin Jones. To me, really unimpressive. Trevin Jones he's decent. He's all right. Really big power, knocked out some good guys. Timur Valiev knocked him out. I think they took away that win from him because he smoked. Doesn't make any sense to me. But at the end of the day, that wasn't really impressive at all. I really thought that Cody would do better than that. He used his wrestling. He was uncomfortable to work on the feet for some reason. Chin was kind of just out there. Striking didn't look as good as it usually does. Output was not as good as it usually is. So it's like, what the hell is happening with Cody Garbrandt? And on the other side, Brian, it's about all I really got to say. Brian's decent. He's a good fighter. He's been in the UFC for a while. He's kind of good at everything. He's a good striker. He can wrestle. He's got decent takedown defense, good jiu-jitsu. I think something to think about is maybe a Kelleher sub here. If Garbrandt does choose to go heavy with the takedowns again, neck could be out there. Trevin Jones jumped that Gilly, and he had a pretty tight one, if you ask me. That could be something that Kelleher might work on. Maybe go for a front choke like Liam was talking about in an earlier fight. I think that'll be open. More often than not, I think that Garbrandt wins this fight. I get that he hasn't looked great, but like Kelleher, his losses are, valid. He's losing to really good guys. Bautista, Umar, Ricky Simone. But then he's beating guys like Domingo Pilarte and Kevin Kroom, and Kroom still outstruck him by 30 significant strikes. For me, it's like, Is Cody going to get knocked out? He could. Is Cody going to get subbed? He could. I think he should win this fight, but I wouldn't be shocked if something happened and he just got finished. I do have a question for you guys. Whenever it's your turn, you feel free to talk about it or not, but I've been looking at the under. I feel like the under makes a lot of sense. I have some hesitancy just because of the last fight of Garbrandt, but I feel like if I can name 3 different ways I think it'll finish, an under at Pick'em is probably a good look. I think that Kelleher can knock out Cody, and I think that Kelleher can sub Cody. And then I think Cody can still knock out Kelleher. Like DC or Rogan, whoever, they always say power is one of the last things to go, right? Cody's still got that power. He's still got that hand speed, it looks like. Just everything else isn't really clicking, but I still think he can knock out a guy like Kelleher. So with 3 different ways I see it finishing, I'm tempted at even money. I want to see what you guys say, though. What do you think of the fight, Tower?
First things first, Jason in the chat, Merry Christmas to you too, brother. But yeah, no, good fight, but not a good fight that I'm confident in because, yeah, like you said, there's both guys have serious finishing upside. Garbrandt could put Kelleher to sleep. The opposite is also true. And this, you mentioned the choke. Is it just me, or does Garbrandt look like he has a lot more neck than other fighters? Like he's got a lot of neck, right?
It's the tattoo.
Maybe
I'll
that's
get to
it.
that in a second.
Okay, Johnny, dude, that neck. I was this close to playing that neck tattoo parlay just because I love the gimmick of it. I want to play it. I don't know that I will, but I want to. Maybe I'll throw like some lunch money on it, right? Okay,
$1 on it.
I'll get myself some lunch. Yeah,
There you go.
but no. So I think Garbrandt has the skills here. Like he's the better fighter overall, but just the red flags. Like Mike was saying, there's red flags. I don't mind the fight doesn't go to decision, or the under 2.5 maybe. I don't mind it. It's all right. I could also just see, Kelleher getting taken down and looking for submissions off his back and just not getting any. And then we get a, really odd, boring decision because, something that Kelleher does is he doesn't try. I mentioned it in my video. He does not try to get back up when he's taken down. He just tries to get submissions. That's what he does. So if Cody goes out there with a wrestling heavy game plan, very similar to his last matchup, we might get that. And if we do get that, I feel pretty good about the Garbrandt side because I don't think he's going to get subbed by Kelleher. But if he does get subbed by Kelleher, I think it's going to be on a takedown attempt. I don't think it's going to be once the fight is already on the mat. But yeah, so I got to take Garbrandt. I'm also a big fan of Garbrandt. I think he's just a good human being. And I know people don't usually think that because he's kind of like a hothead at times. But you look at his story coming into the UFC. The dude's a good human being, so I tend to root for him. But yeah, there's not a whole lot on this.
When Cody sees red, bro. How about you, Johnny?
So yeah, this is the second leg of the neck tattoo parlay here. I'm going with Cody Garbrandt here. I just think he's the better overall MMA fighter in this matchup. I think the reason why he might have not looked that great his last time out against Trevin Jones was because that was his first fight back in like 2 years. And he's gonna be a little hesitant. Maybe he did go to his wrestling because he was scared about getting knocked out yet again. Totally get that. But I think he got that off his chest a little bit, got the rust out. I think he'll be a little bit better in this fight. But let's go to Brian Kelleher here. Not hers. He just got an injury, like a major one. He's been gone for a while. This is his first fight back. How is he gonna look? So to me, I think Cody has a little advantage in this fight. I think he's the best. Like I said, I think he's a better striker. Can Cody get knocked out? Sure. I think Brian can knock him out, but I just don't see it, to be honest. If there's going to be a finish, I do think it's going to be Cody. And I do like the under 2.5 because, maybe Cody does get wrapped up in the guillotine because we know Brian can freaking get a guillotine in his sleep. So that's what he's amazing at. But other than that, he's like just like average everywhere, and that's about it. I think Cody's better than that, even with his like a little bit of a dusty chin right now. So I think he wins this fight. So second leg, like neck tattoo parlay.
Love it, Johnny. Love it. How about you, Liam?
Yeah, I think that this has a lot of red flags on it as a fight overall. For that reason, I lean towards the fight not to go the distance, right? It's like major neck surgery on one side, pullouts on one side, one guy whose chin has been clearly compromised by a lifetime of physical activity, right? It's like Cody Garbrandt didn't like damage his chin by not getting hit in the chin a million times. It's like he's been doing boxing since he was young, football at a high level in Ohio where them boys are big and they're playing for keeps, right? It's like I think that Cody Garbrandt has kind of realized after, going through a lot of adversity in the UFC that number one, he can't cut to 125 because his durability will be completely shot. And at 135, his durability is not great, but it's enough to get in there and wrestle. And that is a skill set that he's had in his back pocket. He doesn't like to use it. He'd prefer to box. If you just could give him all the attributes he wanted, you'd put that chin up to 100. He'd go out there and knock out every guy in the UFC. But that's not the way the game is played, right? And he's given up a lot in terms of going out there, putting his chin on the line. That's already been, we're out of those options, right? So now he kind of has to wrestle to survive, in my view, in these fights, because I just don't think he has a chin to stand up to 15 minutes of exchanging on the feet with anybody, right? And like Brian Kelleher, the big concern here is he had a massive neck surgery. It's like, what version of Brian Kelleher are we going to get here? I don't know, but he's fighting for his UFC life as well. Like when you think about the motivation level for these guys, I think it's very high for both of them. And I do question, can Brian make it happen with the body? That I don't know. I do think that at his best, Cody's a better skilled fighter. I think he's probably closer to his athletic prime. Despite Brian being a guy who maybe has taken less damage, I still think that Cody has more tools, more skills, but I can't trust him at chalk personally because of all the things that we've seen. The only times I bet Cody fights in his career, I had the fight not to start round 4 in the Rob Font fight, which hats off to him. He took a million punches clean to the face that time. So his chin showed up that night. But when you talk about the other bet, it was Kai Kara France by knockout at a big plus money tag. So I haven't bet very many times on his fights because I just don't feel like I have a great read. The only pick I got wrong on that last card that he was on, the only pick on the entire card was picking Trevin 5-Star Jones. So I just can't get a Cody Garbrandt fight right. Whatever I think, fade it.
Shout out Trevin Jones. He's actually fighting this weekend as well in Cage Warriors. Still taping
5-star,
that fight.
baby. Fun
Still
fighter.
Yeah, he's fun. But all right, guys, let's move on. Next up, we've got Irene Aldana versus Carol Rosa. Aldana, 14-7-0, 35 years old, 5'9" with a 68.5-inch reach. Rosa, 17-5-0, 28. She's going to be 7 years younger, 4 inches shorter, and have a 1-inch reach disadvantage. Tyler, why don't you start us off, brother?
Yeah, awesome. Before I break this one down, real fight picks. Hey, I appreciate your concern about me betting my food money. But hey, unless you want to start buying my food for me, brother, I gotta bet my food money if I want to eat. So, but I do appreciate the concern and great Hatsby. Let me know in the comments. You said you read Cody Garbrandt's autobiography. So did I. Wasn't it that he got like hit in the head with like a 2x4 or something by I think it was his brother, right? Back in that book. Let me know if you remember that. I think I remember. I read his book 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years, something like that. So let me know if you remember that because I'm a little foggy on it. But anyway, to the next fight. So essentially, hold on. What fight are we on now?
I don't remember. Aldana.
Oh yeah, that was the one. That's the one I forgot about. Okay, so essentially, our next matchup, Aldana versus Rosa. I don't think Rosa is very good compared to the higher level girls in division. She keeps fights closer than she should. She's got skills on paper, but she keeps fights really close. And to me, that's not something that you want to. That's not something you want to see. I would say that even though she's probably the better overall mixed martial artist, I think she has more skills that she brings to the table. She doesn't put them together well. She struggles to put together her striking with her grappling. They're two separate entities for her. She's either grappling or she's striking, and I think that's a problem for Rosa. For Aldana, though, she's got good boxing, and she's very much a specialist. That's what she's good at. It's the boxing. She will mix in the leg kicks, but I do think that Aldana's probably going to be able to use her specialty to keep this fight where she wants it. I think Rosa's going to try to box with her or to strike with her at least, and I don't think that's going to go well. Hatsby mentioned it. Let's see. He said, yeah, he woke up hours late. Okay, yeah, I was definitely spot on. I think that is a part of why Garbrandt's chin is not so good anymore. Was getting knocked out with a 2x4, woke up hours later, and he just yeah, that's what you do. We're brothers, huh? But no, I definitely do think that for the Aldana matchup, I think she probably gets it done. The line's kind of, it came in a little bit, and at +180 or at -185, it's not crazy, but anything over -200's tough. It's tough, but yeah, that's where I'm at.
All right. How about you, Johnny?
Yeah, again, not super confident, but I'm a little bit more confident than in this fight than the other women's fight. But I'm gonna go with Aldana. I like her striking way more. She's a way better boxer, more technical. Hosa, she's a little bit more well-rounded, but she never wrestles when she needs to, ever. Like she'll just clinch up, she'll just want to strike with you against a better striker, or she'll try to wrestle somebody who's a better wrestler. Like it's really weird. She has weird game plans. She makes fights super close, like you said, Tyler. I don't like it. I think Aldana will win this fight. I know she didn't look amazing at all against Nunes, but not a lot of people do, and I don't even know why that fight even happened. Let's be honest. So, she wasn't going to win. So, I think she'll get a win in this fight. She'll come back around, and yeah, I'm not too high on Hosa. I'll be honest. I think Aldana's a little bit better at this point, but I'm sure they want Hosa to win. But I don't think it's going to happen. I think Aldana will win by decision.
All right. How about you, Liam?
Yeah, this for me is a dogger pass situation. Now, I haven't gotten to the betting window, but just from a theoretical standpoint, I think it's a potential letdown spot for Aldana. You go from a massive opportunity, I'm fighting the biggest fight of my life, and I honestly believe she laid a complete egg. Like just no attempt to fight, no desire it didn't seem like. I always say I can't want it more than you. If I have a bet on you and I'm sitting at home cursing my television that you don't want it and you're not trying, you're not pushing forward, that's what's really going to piss me off. You go out there like Chad and Hellinger and get beat by Jose Johnson the old-fashioned way, fair and square after trying your ass off. That's what I'm looking for. That's what I'm looking to pay for on a dog I lose. I'm like, okay, fought for my money, wanted to be here. That's it. So to not go out there and attempt to win, really disappointing for me. Now, is it understandable? Sure. But then we just got to talk about the facts, right? She went out there, had a great opportunity, completely blew it. Her team is around her like, please attempt a strike. Please do something. She's not doing it, right? Not responsive. So I'm looking for people that are coachable. I'm looking for people that are going to go out there and execute the game plan, fight hard for my money. I didn't see any of that last time. And now I'm being asked for the privilege, right? It's like pay chalk to find out if she's going to fight hard this time. It's like, no, I will not do that. Because that's, for me, a little speculative. Now, is this a lower level opponent? Yes. Should she have more confidence? Yes. But Perane Valley Tudo, grappling based camp, right? Jessica Andrade in her past used to go out there, take women to the ground, pick them up, slam them, right? I think that Carol Hosa has had a couple opponents. Sarah McMahon comes to mind. She's not going to out wrestle and out grapple these women. So she's forced to go on the feet where she's mid, and then she's on the feet with them, kind of just getting tuned up a little bit. And then by the time that the cardio and the takedowns and whatever come into play, it's round 3. She's chasing the finish. She doesn't quite get it. But for me, she's just not a very potent finisher. That's kind of been the thing that's held her back. It's the reason she's not very marketable as well. She's young. She's still putting it together. D. Gomes, her significant other, comes in and has a lot of success off the rip. Younger fighter, another Perane Valley Tudo product. A girl who's grappling, I think, has grown leaps and bounds in the time that we've seen her in the public eye. So I do think of Carol Hosa as potentially coming into her own, getting better over time. Whereas Irene Aldana, we might have seen the very best from her when she knocked out Ketlin Vieira a few years back, right? And I do believe that was a great win, a great knockout. Where have been the subsequent performances that reminded me of that? When Macy Chiasson was on the verge of decisioning her, before she gets what is the most meme-like knockout I've ever seen in all my years watching the sport. So I don't know. For me, I think Aldana is great at her best, but I don't know what we're going to get in terms of what version of her we're going to see. So for me, I'm a little bit skeptical of Aldana right now, and I'd like to see a prove-it performance before I back her at chalk.
Yeah, I'm with you, Liam. I also felt like I didn't know what was happening in that Nunes fight. She looked like a completely different person to me. And I'll forever have a good place in my heart for Aldana. My second ever max bet, first one being Cyril Gane against Francis Ngannou, and then Francis learns how to wrestle, and I lost that bet. And then I bet on Aldana. And you know what? She was probably going to lose that fight too. And then she pulls through with a liver kick that apparently she's been practicing. Highly doubt it, but apparently she was practicing specifically for Macy. But look, I actually originally played Rosa here. I got her at plus 186. I felt like it was a great line. Aldana does kind of choke on the ball here. Her takedown defense, in my mind, wasn't that great. I did end up rerunning the tape and changing my mind. And I'll talk about that in a sec. But in my mind at the time, it wasn't that great. I felt like Rosa could explode in, get those takedowns. Felt like Rosa has pretty good output. She does. She has great output. She's got pretty good striking. And I know a lot of people are crapping on her for her Yana Santos performance, but styles make fights. And Aldana and Santos are so different. Santos is a clinch merchant who loves to work in the clinch, and Aldana's a boxer. they're very different matchups. And at range, I felt like Rosa could compete with Aldana, mix in the wrestling, win the fight that way. Then I read the tape, so watched the tape. You guys are getting me distracted. Chill. Then I watched the tape again, and I just feel like Aldana will be able to stuff any takedowns. And my main red flag with Rosa was this: the chin in the air, just chin hanging in the air. Aldana's got a clean left hook. She's got clean counters. I love the body shots too. But I feel like the more this fight's going to play out, if Rosa's shooting and not getting those takedowns, I think the chin's going to be there. And sooner or later, Aldana's going to put her away. And you look at the women who are out wrestling Aldana, right? So only 3 women in her entire UFC career have gotten more than one takedown: Macy, Holm, Nunes. What do all 3 of those women have in common? They're way more physical than Rosa. They're way bigger. They're way stronger. Very, very different matchups. Macy's 5'11". Nunes is Nunes. I don't have to explain that to you. Holm is huge also and very jacked. All those people bigger than Rosa. I think that Rosa will struggle. Maybe she will get the takedown. She probably will. But I think she will struggle and ultimately tire a little bit. And on the feet, I think it's all Aldana. I really like her striking, and that chin up in the air for Rosa is going to hurt her. I still think plus 86 is a good price. Don't get me wrong. I think this line's too wide. I hedged off. I didn't hedge on to Aldana. Just got off altogether. I'm good to watch. Don't need to have money on this one. But look, I will say, if you disagree with me about the wrestling, you think Rosa will get the takedowns, plus 170, plus 186, I think it's a must play. I just don't think she'll have that success. So I hedged off. But what are you thinking, Tyler?
I already went. I was first.
All right, so it is catching up to me a little bit,
It's
huh?
definitely catching you, brother.
Well, you went to the bathroom, so
But
no
hold
big
up,
deal.
real quick. Since I've got a second here, Pinky mentioned that he thinks that that Aldana gets the sub before. Like, while we go to the next fight, Pinky, elaborate on that for me. Tell me how you think this happens and why, because I'm interested in that, and the money is probably great on it. All right, go ahead, Mike. I'm done.
I actually don't think the money's great on it, if I remember correctly. Let me double check.
Coached by
Aldana-
Diego Lopes.
no, it is good.
That's the long and the short.
You can get plus 900 on Aldana by sub. Honestly,
Okay.
like she does have a decent ground game off of her back. Like in the Chiasson fight, you saw that arm bar in the first round. Wasn't off her back, but it was just kind of off the rip, came out of nowhere, and she put it in pretty nicely. Wouldn't be crazy. Moving on, though, we got Josh Emmett versus Bryce Mitchell. Emmett is 18-4-0, 38 years old, 5'6" with the 70-inch reach. Mitchell, 16-1-0, 29 years old. He's 5'10", so he's 4 inches taller, 70-inch reach as well. Johnny, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, this is one of those fights where I usually don't like a striker versus grappler. If I'm like, debating who I like, I usually go striker here, but short notice from Mitchell. I'm going to actually take him. I think he gets this done. I like his nonstop wrestling. I think Emmett's takedown defense isn't all that great. Yeah, he has the power to knock out Mitchell, but Mitchell has the power to just out wrestle him for 15 minutes and maybe even get a submission too. So I'm going to go with the better grappler, better wrestler here instead of the power, which I usually normally don't. But Mitchell is a different kind of demon on the mat, and I think Emmett's going to have a long night ahead of him. He was planning to fight a striker, and now he's fighting a whole different person who's a better wrestler and grappler. So I'm going to go with Mitchell here. I think he gets this one done by decision.
How about you, Liam?
Yeah, I'm also going to go with Mitchell here. I think that Josh Emmett just absorbed way too much damage. I thought that the fight last time out probably should have been stopped against Ilia Topuria if anybody had the sense that God gave geese, to quote Chael Sonnen. But when I'm just looking at like overall, the body of work, Josh Emmett's a great fighter, but I've been expecting him to come back down to earth since I cashed a very controversial ticket against Calvin Kattar, right? And I basically said in that fight, I covered all my bases. I said, I think Calvin Kattar is going to win a split decision here, and the betting value is on Josh Emmett. And then that's exactly how it plays out, right? It's like a very close fight. Who wins it? It comes down to the judges, and there you go. They give it to the underdog in that one. Close fight. But that for me was like, all right, Josh Emmett has now won too many times as an underdog. This is not going to continue. And then his last couple of times out, people have made the case for him. I had Yair Rodriguez by knockout. I want to puke in my hands. Disgusting. Because he absolutely obliterated him on the feet and then submits him on the ground, right? So it's like a constant refrain, bet the ITD. But when you look back, I just think to myself, Bryce Mitchell, dropped Edson Barboza on the feet. Like, did he get lucky there, or did Edson have to respect the fact that he could wrestle? So his hands come down and then he punches him square in the nose. I think that the hardest fight for Ilia Topuria so far in the UFC was Bryce Mitchell, sick as a dog, honestly. I thought that Bryce was giving him an honest go. I thought the fact he got takedowns was impressive there. The physicality is shocking from Bryce Mitchell. It shows you. I can give the briefest anecdote of all time. The strongest kid I ever wrestled, I asked him, I was like, dude, what do you do? Like, how many weights are you lifting? What steroids do you shoot in your ass? And he is like, I lift weights, basically, moving around stuff with my father in a manual labor capacity. Strongest kid I've ever wrestled by far. So like Bryce Mitchell out there moving around concrete and doing farm work, it's all good. It's all good with me, brother. Whatever you want to do. But I think that he's also the more technical grappler, the more savvy grappler. And I think that Josh Emmett has just absorbed way too much damage. 29-year-old Mitchell against like 39-year-old featherweight. Give me Bryce Mitchell. I think he's going to knock him out.
Bryce has that good old country boy strength, man.
Yep.
I was also
country boy can survive, Lord willing,
Dude, I really hope he brings the Bible back. That made one of the
awesome.
funniest memes ever. That shit is too good. But yeah, for me, I like Mitchell to win. I feel like the line's pretty wide and I can't get there on like a parlay perspective just because like watching the Ige fight. I think the Ige fight is like perfect tape for this because I think that Ige and Emmett have very, very similar styles, very similar guys, very similar builds. And you watch that fight, right? And Mitchell getting his takedowns, but when he's not, he's getting hurt. He's getting hit. His striking to me still isn't all that great. It's coming along. It's getting better. Leah mentioned the Barboza takedown. I think it's because Barboza really respected the takedowns, did not see that coming. Left hand comes and he's down. That was really clean. But I don't think the striking's still all there. I think Emmett is probably the better striker. I think he hits way harder than Bryce does. And I mean, the way his eye blew up in the Ige fight, I had money on Mitchell there quite a bit. And I was really stressed that they were going to stop the fight. And I was shocked that they didn't because he literally couldn't use one eye. He was working with one eye in that fight. Still pulled it off. I thought it was really impressive, though, his work on the ground. He almost lost the back. I think in like the second round, it looked like he was about to slide off. And he was able to correct position, get it back, stay safe, and continue getting the job done. So I do think he's probably going to win. I can't bet it, though, because I would not be shocked if Emmett catches him, if Emmett hurts him, if Emmett causes a doctor's stoppage through damage. I don't know, so I'm going to stay off of it. The one thing I am looking at is the under. I know pretty much everyone is on the over. A lot of sharp people I know are on the over. But for me, it's like I can see a few ways this ends. Like Liam said, Emmett has taken a lot of damage at this point, so much damage. And would I be shocked if Mitchell catches him like he caught Barboza? No. Would I be shocked if Mitchell can sub him? No. And would I be shocked if Emmett finishes Mitchell? I wouldn't be. So, again, I'm getting tempted to play it. Fight doesn't go is plus 125. Might end up going a little contrarian here and going that way. But what are you thinking, Tyler?
Well, first off, Liam, you're a gem. Thank you for mentioning that Topuria's toughest test in the UFC was a sick Bryce Mitchell, because by golly, I said that and everybody said I was silly for it. They were like, oh, Bryce Mitchell had zero success in that fight. He had a bit of success. It was not a lot, but there was a moment in there where he was able to get the fight to the mat, and you saw how gosh darn good that guy is on the ground. So I appreciate that. Thug Nasty's getting this one done. He's fantastic. Once this fight gets to the mat, Emmett's got no chance of doing anything. And I understand Emmett's a good grappler. He's got a wrestling background. He's not anywhere near Thug Nasty's level. Bryce Mitchell is going to be able to get this fight to the mat, and I do think he's going to be able to do that at a pretty high clip. I understand that there's a chance he gets cracked on the feet, but he's shown good durability. How many shots did that dude take from Topuria before he finally was, succumbed to the damage of Topuria? Topuria hits way harder than Josh Emmett. Josh Emmett hits hard, don't get me wrong. Topuria hits like a freight train. Topuria's knocking guys. Did you see that guy that Topuria knocked out in the bar that one time? I mean, like, this dude hits like a truck. So either way, I'm taking Bryce Mitchell, though.
You don't mess around.
I'm going to give out some free bets here. I originally bet Bryce when I saw the line open at like minus 175. And then somehow a bunch of money came in on Emmett, and they gave me Mitchell at like minus 130 or something like that. So I bet him again. So I'm way overexposed on Mitchell. I got 2 units on him. I didn't want to have 2 units on him, but you know what? I don't feel bad about it either. I think he gets this one done, even on short notice. And that farm boy strength is real. So Thug Nasty's getting it done. He's probably going to get it done. I'm going to say 3rd round submission. I don't know what submission yet, but 3rd round submission. But that's what I got.
shocked you don't have the exact kind of submission, Tyler. It's kind of messed up.
I mean, I could probably come up with one before we get off the street.
Twister.
So I'll let you know.
All right, we'll hold you to it. But all right, we can move on. Johnny, you win, right?
Mhm.
All right, cool.
Yep.
So this fight may or may not happen, depending on if you trust Uncle Chael. But we got Vicente Luque versus Ian Garry. Luque, 22-9-1, 32 years old. He's 5'11" with a 76-inch reach. Garry, 13-0, undefeated. 6 years younger, 4 inches taller, and he's going to be at the 2-inch reach disadvantage. Why don't you start us off, Liam?
Boy, oh boy, teeing up the Irish to talk about the Irish, right? Ian Garry is a guy that let me down last time. I'll just level with you guys off the rip. I thought he was going to run through Neil Magny. I thought he should easily finish Neil Magny. And frankly, am I wrong? Right? Like if you guys were to rebook that fight tomorrow, it's 5 rounds. It's like, what is he, 95% to finish the fight? It's like he was clearly so many levels above Neil. But why is that fight frustrating? Where is the finishing instinct? Where is the career management? Like, yo, I have this guy on death's door from the first round on. Maybe I go out there and get the finish, right? You see that in round 3, what does he do? He finally goes to the ground and he passes his guard like butter and has him in a choke literally within seconds of going to the ground, and the fight is over. I was like, dude, it made me sick, right? Because at the end of the day, we're fight fans, right? I'm not here to watch football games and stuff where going in, this is how much time we're going to play, right? Unless barring some crazy circumstance, a tie, overtime, this is how long we're going to play. That's the opposite of what the appeal of fight sports is. It is the air of finality. It is the fact that if you look away right now, you could miss it. It could all be over before you're even seeing it. That is what we love about it. So don't sit out there for 15 minutes playing with your food like this is some kind of game, man. It's a fight. Finish the fight. What did Bobby Green do when Tony Ferguson gave him a window? He finished the fight. That's what you're supposed to do. That's your job. So go out there and finish the fight. Rant aside, he's a great fighter, right? Clearly, he's a very skilled guy. He's got a lot of the right skills. Nobody has denied that, right? The training partners that have bad things to say, it's mostly he's arrogant or this, that, and the, it's not like he's a complete bum and I just washed him every time. Brendan Allen's like, yeah, he got some times on me, but I got some times on him. That's called training, brother. You're going to get some on your training partners. They're going to get some on you. That's what it's called being a pro fighter. So I think of Ian Garry as the guy that has real skills. Take it for what it's worth. Allegedly sick. I have heard the rumor that he's sick as well. So shout out to Dan Levy, great source of information. And what I would say is this. I think of Ian Garry as a guy that is in a prove it spot for me once again, because I have been betting him in the past. I took him at the -170s against Gabe Green and these kind of great spots. I'm like, man, this is a very playable line. But even in those fights, did he go out there and minimize risk? No, there were times when he invited risk, when he was out there accepting the Song Kanong rocks him with a shot, exchanging like 100 strikes each with Gabe Green, who then gets knocked out in the first round by Brian Battle, a bet that I had, by the way. So it's like, I've just seen in the past, Ian Garry go out there and not be as aggressive as he should be. If you leave people out there for 15 minutes, there's more of a chance you get caught. There's more of a chance you make a mistake. And by the way, who did I used to call the death dealer of 170 pounds? Vicente Luque. Why? The left hook is money. He hits you with it. You can wobble. You could stagger. You can go to sleep. If you try and shoot off that, he will put you in a front headlock and he'll put you to sleep. He has an excellent Dars. He has an excellent Anaconda. He's got a beautiful front headlock series. Always has. So I look at Vicente Luque as a guy who's a really tricky challenge and not somebody you want to take lightly, not somebody you want outside bullshit going on before the fight, not somebody you want to be sick, not somebody you want to be missing press conferences or any other bullshit. He's a very serious guy. And by the way, he has gotten beat by Southpaws and Stephen Wonderboy Thompson switching stances on him. That's about it. Like, this guy is not an easy mark. He's not an easy pushover fight. He had the brain bleed. That's why he's in the spot, right? I think they're trying to give Ian Garry winnable fights. But I also think he's not making his road any easier for himself with the controversy outside the cage. I know controversy creates cash, but it also creates distraction. At the end of the day, winning creates cash. And I do think that for me, I'm less bullish on Ian Garry this week than I should be, because I'm a big fan. I've liked a lot of his performances along the way, but I feel like last time was a letdown. I feel like the shit that's going on outside the cage is not inspiring for me. I want to know that you're training with good people consistently. Where are you at? I don't know. It's a lot more questions than answers. So for me, I'm not feeling very bullish about Ian this week. Should he win? Absolutely. Is he better skilled? Yes, he is. But is he going to justify a minus 300 price tag if he plays with his food? Let's this guy, a guy this dangerous, hang around. This isn't Neil Magny, brother. There's a risk here, right? One left hook and the fight's different. So I just feel like Ian Garry for me is in a prove it spot. I'm not ready to go put minus 300 behind him right now.
Forget minus 300. He's minus 405 right now.
Craziness. Not that either.
Yeah, craziness. I do see a bunch of money came in on Luque, like market wide. Plus 300's gone. You can only get like plus 270 now. But yeah, I think the line's way off. Do I want to play it? I don't really know. I probably wouldn't have, but now with all this Ian Garry stuff going on, missing the press conference or not the conference, the media day, it's just concerning. I like to take all of that with a grain of salt. I really don't like narratives. I try not to really take those into account, but I mean, little things like that do matter. You have to wonder where his head's at with all this drama. It looks like he took it way harder than he's taken anything else so far. So you do have to think about that. And on top of that, he's not fighting a bum. He's fighting a really good fighter. And if Luque didn't have the brain hemorrhage and like all the concern with that, because he's literally like the only case that we have to work with of a fighter getting that and coming back, it just seems crazy. It was weird seeing his approach in the RDA fight. Now that I think about it, maybe it's because of the brain bleeding, the hemorrhage. He was trying to be safe. But watching him take down RDA 8 times, get a ton of ground control time, I knew he had good jiu-jitsu. I didn't really think he had that good of offensive wrestling, but it looked good. And if he can mix that in against Garry, that could be live. I had Ian Garry by sub in that Magny fight. When I saw how easily he could have gotten that submission, I wanted to get rid of my TV and just stop watching fights altogether. That was so frustrating. Liam, I'm with you. I think he could have finished like 20 times and he just chose not to, was playing with his food. Maybe he's trying to prove a point back after all that shit talk, but what better way to prove a point than finish the guy? Get him out of there. Make your point. And it's just bad decision making is what I'm thinking. I think Ian Garry's so talented. He could maybe be champion. I think he will challenge for it. His striking's really good. He's really athletic, explosive, in and out movement, good striking defense for the most part, can be countered. Song Kanan, if I'm not mistaken, that was a left hand also, if my memory serves me. Luque, like Liam said, nasty left hand, nasty counters in general. So I might have to play him a little bit. I do wish I could still get plus 300. I think it just crashed like while we've been on stream, but I might still play plus 270, just small, because I do respect Garry and I think he's super good. But I think there's a lot of upside that I'm saying, and it feels weird not having a bet on Luque with the thoughts I'm having.
Guys, I'm so sorry, but I can now confirm from Dana White himself that this fight is off the card. Ian Garry has the flu.
Man,
shitty. I'm sorry.
No.
Just finished breaking it down, and
dang, Liam, I couldn't even do my breakdown.
Of bad news, bro. I'm so sorry. I just saw that pop up in my feed. I have Dana on my notifications, and that was not good. He seems less than thrilled in the video.
So real talk though, who actually thinks Garry's sick and who thinks it could be due to the other outside of the octagon stuff?
Honestly, man, travel and all that kind of stuff, it does make your body susceptible to getting sick, the weight cutting as well. And I think that if there was any kind of acrimony on a week like this, when everything else is already kind of going wrong, maybe that's the thing that makes you say, you know what? I'm not fighting through this. I don't need this fucking bullshit in my life. I'm going to get better and come back and do it again.
Well, and if your body's not right, if you're all stressed out, you're doing this, you're doing that. Like, I mean, your body's going to be like, you can get sick like that, like easier than it probably should. So I'm sure he's not in the right place right now. Let's be honest. Which is why I didn't even want to bet this fight.
Sabotaged
like, honestly,
by his nutritionist.
It might have been.
Yeah, that ruins my spread bet I had on Luque, so that sucks.
Yeah, there's just
personally, I would have believed him being sick like off the bat, if not for the fact he literally said like going into this, he was like concerned for his family's safety or something. Oh, that makes me wonder if there is something more going on, but who knows?
Well, we could skip that one, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys don't want to break it down.
I was gonna pick Garry, but I mean, on paper, I think he is the better fighter, but I'm not going to touch this with everything going on. Like, I don't know where his mind is. He goes from up here to down here so quickly. Like, he's either the king of the world or he's just like the bottom of the barrel. Like, he's no in between ever. So right now, bottom of the barrel. I'm staying away from that. He's not confident.
Yeah.
He
That's
should win though, but now he's not.
Now he won't even get the chance.
Mm-mm.
Luque won.
Sounds like he's not undefeated anymore. Chat's got this one right. There we go.
Seems like Ian lost his O this time.
Yeah.
But all right, let's move on.
When your own stupid shit comes back to haunt you like fucking 4 months later, you're like, God,
Gotta
damn.
love it.
Lessons learned, man. He's young. He's still super young. I think
He just needs to shut up.
he needed stuff like this.
He did. He actually did need to shut up, bro. He was embarrassing us a little bit. We, the Irish, were like, yo, bro, take it easy a little bit. You want to claim Brazil, then we're going to fucking claim Vicente Luque if he knocks your ass out, okay?
Warning given. But all right, we can move on. I can't wait for this fight. I can't wait to hear these two go at it tomorrow. We have Tony Ferguson versus Paddy Pimblett. I do feel like I have to tell you guys, Tony pulled up with an iguana. Might really change things up this time.
Ooh.
So just felt like that was a really important thing to mention. But Tony is 25-9-0, 0-5 in his last 5 fights. 39 years old, 5'11" with a 76.5-inch reach. Paddy 23-0, 5-0 in his last 5. One of those is a robbery. Unfortunately, it happens. 11 years younger, 1 inch shorter, 3-inch reach disadvantage. Tyler, why don't you start us off?
Yeah. All right. So, I mean, okay. It's hard to not root for a guy like Tony Ferguson, right? Everybody wants to see him win, but like he just isn't doing it anymore, and it sucks. But you can't pick him. I got to pick Pimblett, and I don't think Pimblett's as bad as people think he is because, I mean, he broke his foot in his last fight, right? And everybody's like, "Oh yeah, it was a robbery decision." Okay, yeah, maybe. I thought Gordon won that fight. Most people did. The judges at cage side did not. But the thing is, like, if he did well enough to get it close with a broken foot, that says something. A broken foot's kind of important. You stand on it to strike, and if you're going to try to grapple, it limits a lot of your movements. I mean, it's pretty hard to lock down like a triangle, for example, with a broken foot, especially if it's the side that you're trying to put under your leg. So, I mean, things like that. I mean, a broken foot is a big hindrance, and it depends on the level that it's broken. Whatever. I'm rambling, but either way, I think Paddy's better than people give him credit for, especially in the grappling. I do think his grappling is very solid. I think his ability to take the back and fish for a rear naked choke is very good. On the feet, he's very hittable, but he's durable. We've seen him hit and rattled and whatever, but he's durable. He bounces back quick. He recovers quickly. He does have decent power in his strikes. So I do think it's going to be tough for Tony to really – I mean, the guy's 0-6 in his last 6 fights. Like, losing is a habit. My coach used to always tell me that, losing is a habit. And if you start losing and you don't fix that early, it's just going to be what happens. That's why you see
Oh no, the bunker.
guys on the regional scene that have all the work get in the cage, they get wrecked in the first 10 years. Oh yeah. Yeah. In training, they can't do it. But in the fights, in the training, they can do it. And in the fights, they just can't. It's because losing's a habit. And I think Tony's just got too much going on. He's not performing to the level he used to. And I think Paddy's going to be able to get it done. But, it's just what it is. Everybody's going to be rooting for Tony, but Paddy's probably doing it.
Yeah, makes sense. How about you, Johnny?
Yeah, I'm on the same side. I mean, we're all going to root for Tony, let's be honest. But, I mean, I think Paddy's going to get this one done. It's going to look pretty easy, too. I think he's just the better fighter at the moment. Like, if Paddy wants to wrestle down Tony, he can wrestle down Tony, and he could probably submit him in the first round. On the feet, it might take him a little longer, but I do think Paddy can get a knockout on the feet. He's got the power. He can just push forward. I think he can take Tony's punches in his unorthodox style. Maybe Tony can get lucky with like a spinning elbow or something. But I mean, I think Paddy's path to victory here is to actually wrestle Tony down and get the rear naked choke. And I think that's what he's going to be doing here. I don't think he's gonna mess around. I think he's gonna try to show people why like the hype was there. And he's not really as bad as a lot of people say he is. Yet he's still learning, he's still young, he's still improving too. The injury probably set him back, obviously. But one thing you can say about Paddy, though, he's very durable and he has very good grappling and submissions. And I think he gets a submission. I have a play on inside the distance because I'm not messing around with just submission or KO at plus 100. That's all I'm going to play because I'm not touching that money line. I think this fight doesn't go the distance, and I don't think Tony is going to get a submission or a knockout. So give me Patty inside the distance.
All right. How about you, Liam?
Large agreement for me here. I think that Tony, does he have a path to winning the fight? I mean, I suppose he does. Like, he's a guy that has some stand-up ability, right? Like, he has, even in his last couple fights, landed a few meaningful shots along the way. But the problem is few and far between. The defense is just not there, right? Like, you look at Tony, a lot of MMA fighters you talk about, especially young MMA fighters, we talk about the offense is there, but the defense just isn't quite there. He's 39 going on 40, right? So, like, is he going to learn how to do defense now? I'm not sure that he is, right? At his prime, he tanked damage. That was his defense. He has a three knockdowns for, 5 knockdowns against in his UFC career. That's not good, right? And like that for a very good fighter, that's surprising that it's that low, right? He's been taken down a million times. He spent a lot of his fights on his back, but for so long, heart, durability, will, just sweat equity, like those things were carrying him for a long time through his career, in my humble opinion, because he did a lot of things that were outside the beltway, not normal. It's throwing too many spinning attacks, Granby rolling into every kind of submission attempt there is. But a lot of it was unorthodox, and it would only work when other people were tired and then broken down from a damaging, frenzied pace that he could keep that they couldn't keep. And we saw that against RDA. That's like the peak of his powers, right? At his best, he's just doing too much. You can't keep up, and he could do it all night. But he can't do it fast enough anymore. And now people could see it happening, and they could react to it. Michael Chandler, is he known for being like a great kicker, a prolific kicker? Not really. But he was able to line him up, take his time, and punt him right in the face as hard as he could. And it's one of the most devastating knockouts you'll ever see in the UFC. He's then standing over his dead body, just doing like backflip, backflip, backflip. I'm not going to be, too long with my analysis here. I could, of course, be wrong because we're all going to get picks wrong throughout the course of our life and our career. I'm not a big Paddy Pimblett guy. I told people last time he was going to rob Jerry Gordon blind. I actually said that was going to happen in advance of the fight. I was like, I know Jared's going to look like value. I know that, but he doesn't finish and they will rob him blind on the cards. They robbed him blind. Paddy's worth a lot of money. So then I'm just looking at this. I'm like, they've done Tony no favors, right? When they did try and do him favors, it still didn't work out. And I mean that sincerely. Like Bobby Green in those fights, they're against age contemporaries. They're against guys with 50 fights that are, getting towards the end of their careers and the end of their primes. And they put him with Tony, and Tony was still getting finished. And he was still having a hard time competing with those guys. Now he's in there with somebody 11 years younger, right? The last 6 fights that he's been losing, guess what the average age of his opponents were? Over 34. He's fighting a 28-year-old who's probably sauced to the gills, who's got money and resources to do whatever he needs to do to get ready for this fight. And do you think he wants to get embarrassed by the guy on a 6-fight losing streak? I truly don't think he does. I think he's going to be very invested in winning this fight, doing it in dominant fashion. And frankly, a lot of guys have gotten the win over Tony Ferguson. So now if you go out there and get the win, that's not enough, right? If you go out there and Jerry Gordon him, it's not enough. You need an impressive finish. So I'm with Johnny here. I think it's going to be Patty, and I think he's going to finish Tony. And I wish it wasn't so, but MMA is a cruel mistress. And I've seen a lot of people that like Tony this week, and all respect, right? I think he's doing the right things, trying to put himself in a position to succeed, but every dog has their day. And I do think that his day has come and passed, unfortunately. And I think the game's done him wrong. He should have gotten more money, should have gotten more opportunity. Life ain't fair. And I think that unfortunately he's trying to rectify things now, and I think it's a little too late. So give me Paddy Pimblett here inside the distance.
All right. First off, guys, listen to Dan over here. Please make sure you like and subscribe to all of us very much. That would be great. Dan, appreciate you. Make sure you guys check out Dan. You probably already know him. Half the Battles, one of the best podcasts out there in MMA. And then MMA Jesus, God bless your soul, but we all know how you score fights when you
don't fade the Jesus. Don't fade the Jesus, Mike.
My guy.
Yo, real quick. So I'm seeing there's a whole gobble of you guys in the chat, and I appreciate the heck out of all of you guys. But I'm seeing 17 likes, and 2 of them are me. So I know that means that not all of you have liked.
Well, what the heck? Come on, y'all.
So if you guys would just do that, we're gonna wait for you. Go ahead right now. Just go over there and do it. We're waiting. We'll give it a minute. Okay, Mike, go ahead.
All right. Now that I can go ahead. Oh, we got the dog in the back too. Maybe Tony will pull it off, but we'll see. Look, never enough. I get it. Tony has shown flashes of still having it. He did hurt both of them. He still seems okay. But like, we can't deny what we're seeing in front of our eyes. It's that Tony's kind of just falling apart and he's not himself anymore. I mean, the new coach situation is interesting. Why did he choose a cardio coach? I don't know. I feel like that's the last thing he needs to work on right now. I don't know when that was even a problem for Tony, but I just feel like Patty's too much, unfortunately. I had Jared Gordon in that fight. Felt like Gordon should have won, obviously. But Patty's young. He's explosive. He's strong. He's got power. I don't think he's the most technical striker, but the Vendramini knockout, I thought that was very impressive. I rate Vendramini. I think he's a very good fighter. I thought he could still hang in the UFC, and that was a clean knockout. Put him out. And his grappling's really legit. You have to respect the grappling. He's a good wrestler, physical, like I said, athletic, can take the back. He's very clean with his transitions, and he's not going to stop. And I do think he's the hungrier guy. Don't get me wrong. Tony still says he wants to be champion, but I feel like Patty's the one who also wants to be champion and has at least a path that is possible. I don't think it'll happen, but that's possible. I feel like Patty's going to come out here and finish him. I'm not going to sit here and break this down too much longer. There's really not too much to it. Played him also inside the distance, plus 100, I thought was pretty generous. I think Patty probably finishes him 7 out of 10 times is what I'd guess. So you're going to give me plus 100. I'm going to take the shot, put 2 units on it.
Mike, real quick, when you said Patty was the hungrier guy, were you talking about his weight, or were you talking about just like he wants to win?
Obviously,
I just want to verify.
He's clearly hungry.
So it's not, you're not weight shaming Patty here.
I would never.
Okay.
I eat just like Patty does.
Want to get that on the record?
I'll buy you a root beer, dude. If Tony KOs Patty, never enough, dude. You'll just I'll PayPal you. I'll buy you a root beer. Promise.
Wow. And he needs to earn that root beer money this weekend.
I gotta earn it. So if
root beers are expensive too, and I'm sure Tyler, you're like one of those root beer connoisseur guys where you're not gonna just go for I don't even know what they're like a Muggs root beer. You're gonna go for
dude, Barks is the way to go. But I'm gonna be honest with you, dude. Like Kroger, actually, like Kroger stores, like whatever, like whether it's like Harris Teeter, Baker's, all that stuff, they straight up have the best like store brand root beer in the freaking world. Like I'm not even kidding. It's fantastic. Only the sugar free though. I don't drink sugar. I don't drink calories. Liquid calories are bad for you. I gotta stay fit. I work in a gym. I gotta look good, right? So, but no, sugar free root beer. I'll never enough though. I got you, brother.
All right, I like it. But moving on, we've got Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Stephen Thompson. Shavkat 17-0, undefeated as a pro, 29 years old. He's 6'1" with a 77-inch reach. Thompson 17-6-1. He's 40. He's going to be 11 years older, 1 inch shorter, and have a 2-inch reach disadvantage. Johnny, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, I'm very high on Shavkat Rakhmonov, and I think he gets this one done. I just don't know how or when, but I think he wins this fight. I mean, if he does what he did to Neil Magny, same game plan right there, I think he gets this done in the first round. But I don't know if he's going to go out there and maybe do the game plan he had with Jeff Neal and strike with him, because that's going to be a little bit closer. But I still think he gets this one done. But I just think youth. I mean, Thompson's always tricky. He's got a good kick game. Obviously, he's durable, good cardio. But his takedown defense though isn't all that great, and that's how you beat Wonder Boy in a convincing fashion. Is you take him down and you just out grapple him, and he can stay safe, but he just can't get back up, and he can't throw up any submissions. He's just gonna play it safe to the round ends, and hopefully he doesn't get taken down again. But I mean, Rakhmonov's so super well rounded where he can grapple and he can strike with him, and he is durable. He can knock you out or he can sub you. So give me Rakhmonov to win. Like I said, I just don't know if it's going to be by a submission, knockout, or decision, but I know he's going to win. And I'm also going to say that this fight goes over 1.5. I really like that spot. Thompson's durable. He's only been subbed once. I think Rakhmonov is going to try to test out the striking early, so it's going to get to round 2. But I think he's going to realize I can get this fight easier if I can get this fight to the mat in round 2. So that's how I'm seeing this fight happening. I just don't know when it's going to happen. So we'll see. Give me Rakhmonov though. I'll say submission round 3.
All right, round 3. How about you, Liam?
Yeah, this is a tricky one in the sense of trying to decide whether my boy Shavkat's going to try and take this to the ground or whether he's going to exchange on the feet. I do think people have convinced themselves that Shavkat can exchange with Wonderboy on the feet. I don't see that as a reality. I think that would be a more difficult path, but like I just think of Shavkat as a guy that can compete with probably every welterweight, probably in every phase of the game. So for me, I don't think he's going to get blown out of the water in the striking. I think he could definitely compete there. I think he's got huge power, more so than Wonderboy, right? Like Wonderboy's had times where he styles on people for 5 full rounds. Jeff Neal, I thought he was going to knock out Jeff Neal, and Jeff was able to just keep taking his shots all night, right? Walked onto a million of them, just kept taking them, coming forward, even pushing a little bit in rounds 4 and 5 towards Wonderboy. So I think of Wonderboy as a guy that lands all the time, but he's almost too nice for fighting, bro. Like if it's not his friend, Kevin Holland submits that guy. Like he takes him to the ground and just chokes him. But instead, he's like out there playing patty cake, gets him to the ground, lets him back up, handshake, and do a tequila commercial. Like that for me doesn't fly, right? So I'm just looking at that like, all right, you had one fight with your friend that you won. You pulled up to one fight. The guy missed weight. Granted, I thought he was going to lose that fight, right? And against Michel Pereira, who I think is not as good a fighter as Shavkat. So I thought Michel Pereira was a live underdog that night because I was like, man, if he decides to take this guy to the ground, he's huge. He's going to take him to the ground. It's plain and simple. So I think that Wonderboy at his best would have been too mobile to try and take down. But I do think that in this fight, Shavkat can get a hold of him if he wants to. I think he can take him to the ground. I think that his ground and pound is the most savage I've ever seen in the history of the sport. Certainly right up there. Most of the time, guys are trying to like get off on ground and pound. They're like just going for anything to make a connection, right? To get the ref to intervene. Shavkat is like holding your ankle, snipe from up here, bang. And it's not the Beneil Dariush throw as hard as you can and punch the mat, miss Charles Oliveira's head because you're reeling up with too much. He throws, cocks back, and delivers with a very quick efficiency. He knocked out Carlston Harris in devastating ways. That'll change your life. So I think that he can knock out Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. I think he could submit him. I think he's a much better grappler. And I think that if this fight was to go the distance, we've seen Shavkat can compete minute for minute with a lot of guys as well. Plus he's got the takedown upside. So for me, this is a Shavkat win. And I think it's another finish. I think it's a knockout, honestly.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I like how Johnny said it. I think Shavkat wins, but I don't know how.
I don't know how. It could be any way. That's the best part. It could be any way. So
that's when it gets complicated with guys like this, like trying to find a way to bet them because they're minus 600 because they deserve it. And then you're picking how, and they can really do it either way because they're just that good. I think Shavkat wins. Not much of a breakdown here. I mean, Stephen Thompson, love the guy, amazing striker, but the guys who grapple him beat him. Gilbert Burns, Bilal Muhammad. If Kevin Holland would have just did what he did in the tequila commercial, he would have won too. I mean, he took him down, and it didn't look hard at all. And then he's like, come beat me up instead. Shavkat's not going to do that. This dude wants to be a champion. He's hungry. He's not going to play with his food like Ian Garry. If he can get the finish, he's going to get the finish. And I think the only reason that the line's even close for the finish, that we're even getting minus 175. Now, granted, I still don't have the balls to play that. It's still a little chalky for me. But the only reason it's that low, in my opinion, is because people are like, oh, he barely finished Jeff Neal. Styles make fights. Jeff Neal has really good takedown defense. Stephen Thompson does not. If Shavkat at any point doesn't like the striking, he will get the takedown, in my opinion, and he can't finish the fight. So give me Shavkat. And Tyler, how about you?
So I'm probably on an island here. I think it goes to decision. I think Wonderboy's too durable. I mean, he's been knocked out once in his career, and it was kind of one of those things where he just got caught perfect. I think it goes to decision. I think what happens, and so first off, Classical Andrew in the chat pointed it out. So what he's talking about is like when Wonderboy hits that teep and then lets the guy come back in and hits him with that straight right, or it could be the straight left, depending on the stance he's in, because he does switch stances. that is money right there. And I think he's going to be able to land stuff similar to that on Shavkat, because I think what's going to happen is Shavkat's going to come out and try and strike with him in the first round and probably lose the first round to Wonderboy. I think Wonderboy is going to be just a little bit quicker, a little bit, with good movement, everything like that early in the fight. And I think his style is going to be hard for Shavkat to get the better of in the first round. And I think the second and third round, he's going to be able to take over. But one thing that you guys are kind of mentioning, he's going to be able to get the takedowns, and maybe, but Shavkat hasn't really shown an ability just to go in there and just kind of like wrestle like aggressively with people. He kind of takes the takedowns that are given to him. And a lot of times his takedowns come from the clinch. They come with like a trip, maybe a throw type of thing. But he's not going out there and just like shooting doubles and singles on guys and just getting them down at will. He's taking what's given to him. And I think that early in the fight, he's going to strike with Wonderboy. I think the first round is probably going to be a striking match. And I think in a striking match, Wonderboy outpoints him. So I do think he's going to have to grapple, and I think he will for Shavkat to win. I think he will get the win, but I don't think it's going to be just kind of he goes in there and just wrecks Wonderboy. I think we're getting a decision. I think it's going to be 29-28 Shavkat, and I think it's because he's going to be able to push him up against the cage, work minutes there, maybe eventually get it to the mat, but I don't think it's going to be just he goes out there, takes him down, and lays on him for 3 rounds. And I don't think it's going to be an instance where he goes out there and just destroys him, submits him, or knocks him out. Because I do think Wonderboy is durable, and he does have decent takedown defense. People forget that. The reason he didn't, in my opinion anyway, the reason he didn't have the takedown defense in the Kevin Holland fight is they made it clear they're not going to do takedowns. And then when the fight, when Holland did get a takedown accidentally early on, it was kind of like a slip up, right? And then Holland let him back up. So Wonderboy said, I don't have to worry about defending takedowns anymore, because this is the gentleman's agreement we have. So in that fight, I think you can give him a pass on the lax takedown defense. And I think it's just because Wonderboy is so nice and trusting that he accepted that was a truth. Because in other fights, we've seen him fight off takedowns, especially against the cage. He does a good job of getting the overhook and like kind of turning his face to the cage as he puts the other guy's face to the cage and then circles off. That's what he does to defend takedowns against the fence. He does it very good. I do I'm rambling a little bit. I'm going a little too far here, but I do think that it's going to go to decision. I did bet the over 1.5. I think it's just in my crazy Patreon parlay actually. But either way, I'm on Shavkat to win. I think it's going to decision though. And I did put like the tiniest amount on the point spread for Wonderboy, because I think it's still like a ridiculous number. Or at least it was when I played it. It was a lot. It was like plus almost
plus
255. Yeah. It was near plus 300. So
okay.
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I don't hate that. Definitely don't hate it. But moving on, we got our co-main event of the evening, the flyweight championship fight. I cannot wait for this one. Alexander Pantoja versus Brandon Royval 2. This is the rematch. Pantoja 26-5-0. He's 33 years old, 5'5" with a 68-inch reach. Royval 15-6-0. He's 2 years younger, 4 inches taller, and he's going to have a 2-inch reach advantage. Liam, why don't you start us off?
Hell of a scrap, hell of a matchup. I think it's a great fight on paper. I think Pantoja is a hell of a fighter. Happy to see him get the win last time out. Earned it the hard way. But I do kind of worry that he might have poured out the jug last time. He's a little bit older for this smaller weight class. He's a guy that's got real skills, but kind of seemed like he got to the mountaintop last time. And it's not easy to win a 5-round fight, right? He looked exhausted in the second round, just kept pushing through. That is like heart. That's digging deep. That's like making a decision. They talk about who wants it better. He wanted it as bad as anybody could want it last time out. And he got there, right? So now some people, it's like, I'm not the champion until I defend the belt. For some people, it's like a lifetime achievement award. I kind of felt that way for Glover, where I had bet Glover all the way on up. I bet him at plus money in that title fight. He gets the win. And I was like, this is all coming crashing down, because it's just not sustainable, right? At a certain age, at a certain threshold, right? So Pantoja could very well just be still in the midst of his prime. But I feel like we kind of saw him slow down in the lead up to getting a title shot, where the Askarov fight, maybe he didn't look like himself, had some winnable opportunities, right? Alex Perez, a guy who could hardly make it to the cage. He gets the win there. Fantastic, right? Royval, I bet him there. And I was starting to shake. I was like, oh God, he's slowing down. He's gassing out, and he gets the win. He gets the finish right from the back. I was like, thank goodness. And I've had a good success betting on Royval fights, right? Because I bet Royval against Kai Kara France. I bet, Pantoja against Royval. I was like, really good jiu-jitsu against scrambly, frenetic bullshit. That's where the rubber is going to meet the road, right? But now we've seen Royval be a lot more mature and educated in his approach. He's not out there to just make it a 50-50 brawl on the feet. If you're going to make it a 50-50 brawl on the feet and I could get you a plus 190, sign me up. I'll do that every time. But that's not something I'm going to take at chalk. It's not something I'm going to take against really great fighters. In this spot, I feel like Brandon Royval starting to level up in his own career. I feel like people don't talk about the fact that he's a jiu-jitsu black belt with very good submission threats of his own. If you get exhausted, it doesn't matter if you have 10 jiu-jitsu world championships at home. You tap, you go to sleep. It's just a way of applying pressure, right? So Brandon Royval goes out there knowing I'm either going to get finished or I'm going to finish you. And there's some comfort in that, right? He's like, I'm going to put the result in God's hand. I'm just going to press the foot to the gas pedal until one of us goes down. That's a really hard guy to deal with, by the way. And just like the mental pressure of like, this guy has no quit in him. No, zero say die attitude. It's like, I have to kill him or he's going to kill me. That's a scary fight. It's not an easy fight. So for me, it's a dog or pass situation in this one. Because I feel like Royval has a chance to close the gap and get better. And I feel like Pantoja has reached his mountaintop. That's the way I see this one, but no bets for me yet. Leaning towards the underdog to get it done inside the distance.
Yeah. For me, honestly, I still think Pantoja could win it. I love the guy. I think he's so good. Like, I think he's such a damn good fighter. The ground game's crazy. The back take against Askarov, that video has been circulating on Twitter. That was nasty. And to do that against a guy like Askarov, really impressive. But the cardio is legit. Like, the problem with the cardio is legit. And I was watching back the Royval fight, the first one, and you can see it. In round 2, you can see it. Royval was starting to land better. He was kind of starting to back him up a lot. Pantoja looked tired. The striking looked kind of laborious. And then, it got to the ground, and Pantoja, I think, is still better on the ground than Royval. Royval is really scrambly, and he does put people in a lot of really weird positions. But Pantoja's so sound on, like, I love his ground game. He's just so slick. I wouldn't be shocked if he gets another rear naked. I know every rematch is usually different, and I think this one probably will be. But I still think Pantoja will probably find the sub. He's my pick. Do I want to play him at...
Come back. Come back.
I thought to myself, I was like, damn, did I just lag out?
Maybe.
He's just
I thought it was too. And everyone like,
I think
there you go. There you go.
I think my Wi-Fi cracked. Couldn't handle the pressure.
You're about ready to say something good, and it's like, nope.
What was the last thing I said?
I don't even remember.
Well, point is, I think that Pantoja is probably still going to win, but I don't want to play him at minus 190. I think there's a fantastic parlay piece here, under 3.5. If you can get it, I got it at minus 250 on Bet365. I think that's a really nice spot. I don't think this is going far. The pace Royval pushes, the pace Pantoja pushes. He really prefers fights not to go late. Royval prefers them not to go late. Feel like we're going to get a finish one way or another, either Pantoja earlier or Royval later. I wouldn't be shocked if Royval got a knockout. Thought he looked pretty good on the feet recently. And even against Pantoja, like I said, in that second round, he looked decent. I think Pantoja's the better guy, but I think the under is the best way to do it. You're getting just over 4 rounds to work with, and both guys are great finishers. So for me, that's the play. But how about you, Tower?
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of Royval. I mean, the nickname Raw Dog is absolutely fantastic, hilarious, cracks me up. I'm a big fan of Royval. In fact, I usually root for him. Here's the thing that you said, fights typically go different in the rematch, and I agree. And I think that this one's going to go different in the sense that Pantoja's just going to run him over. I think it's going to be absolute obliteration, and it's going to be Pantoja all the way. Very little offense from Royval. I think it's just going to be Pantoja cuts right through him like a knife, like a hot knife through butter. Just easy. Easy pick.
I like it.
All right. I hope you're right. I'm a big Pantoja fan. I was so hyped he got the strap, but okay. Johnny.
So big a fan. Got it.
Yeah, both guys are killers. They just go out there. They want to finish their guy, whether it's by knockout, whether it's by submission. But guess what? There's one guy that just doesn't get killed, and that's Pantoja. He's so freaking durable. I don't even care about his cardio. He lasted 5 rounds with Brandon Moreno. That's enough cardio you can show me. All he needs to do if he's tired is to take down Brandon Royval, and he could do it. Brandon Royval's takedown defense is not great. at all. And if you're able to take down Brandon Moreno in the 4th and 5th rounds and win that fight like that, then you can definitely win a fight against Brandon Royval like that too. But I don't think this fight will go to decision. I think it's going to end kind of the same way it happened in the first one. I think it's going to be 2nd or 3rd round submission after a couple takedowns, and he takes the back, and I think it's over after that. I mean, that's how good Pantoja is. And I'm not trying to, Alex Perez and Brandon Royval, I'm not putting them together by any means, but literally Pantoja ran over to him, took his back on his feet, and got the submission in under a minute. Like, this dude is a killer junkyard dog that just can't be killed. So I love Royval too. I love his style. He's dangerous, but this is just a guy. It's just on a different level, unfortunately. I just think he's better everywhere. I mean, yeah, Royval can finish him, but I just don't see it yet. I have to see it with my own eyes first. Can't do it. I can't see it. So what happened though?
Dude, every time, my guy had a bet on
Dude,
Moreno.
come on.
I love the guy, but Jesus.
Dude, Dev, come on, man. Pantoja won that fair and square. There's no judging, no rigged in there. Don't even say it.
But all right, let's move on to our main event of the evening. We've got Leon Rocky Edwards versus Colby Covington. Edwards 21-3-0, 32 years old. He's 6'2" with a 74-inch reach. Covington 17-3-0, 35. He's 3 years older. He's going to be 3 inches shorter and have a 2-inch reach disadvantage. I'll start us off for this one. Look, I'm not a fan of the guy, but I'm on Covington. I don't bet on guys who I like. I bet on guys who I think are going to win. And where there's value, I think there's value on Covington as an underdog. I got him at plus 139. I think it's a really close fight. I think Leon is a stud. I called the knockout on Usman. I'm not going to sit around and pretend I expected it like that. I did not. I thought my bet was long gone when the 5th round started, but I thought the read was pretty accurate, and I think it's kind of relevant here too, because for me, the thing I see with Usman when he's striking a lot of the time is he'll get uncomfortable. He'll do the overhand right. And when he does that, he ducks his head down. So I kind of thought that Edwards was sooner or later going to catch on to that and get him. Colby does the same thing. So backing Colby, that's one concern I do have. I would not be shocked if Edwards could catch him. I think Edwards is a really slick striker. But the thing with Colby is it's the same reason I like betting on guys like Cody Durden. Just won't stop. He won't give up. He won't give in. He's a decent striker. I am concerned, like I mentioned, about the swinging overhand rights and all that, but he held up decent against Usman. He will close the distance, so it doesn't matter to me too much. To me, it's going to come down to, can Edwards defend the takedowns? Can he get out of the clinch position? And if he can't, can he win in the clinch against Colby while Colby's pushing him up there, landing strikes, trying to take him down? I don't know. As good as he's looked, he still got taken down by Usman in both of their last 2 fights. He can be taken down. He can be hit himself. And Colby just won't quit. He won't stop. And he's really annoying to deal with. And I love backing guys like that. If they're the underdog, that's what I'm going to do. So I backed Colby. It's a good fight. It's a close fight, but I think he's going to pull this one off. And we're really going to enter into 2024 with Sean Strickland and Colby Covington being champions together. It's something else. But Tyler, what are you thinking?
Yeah, so I wanted to make a full just individual fight breakdown of this one. I ran out of time. Didn't get the chance to. So, whatever. I put as much as I could out, and I did like 10 minutes on it on my full card breakdown. And it's a tough fight because both guys clearly have their path to victory. If Leon can keep it at range, obviously he's going to win there. He does a very good job at going from the range striking into the collar tie. And once he's in there, he's slamming elbows, and he slams elbows hard. And if he can do that to Covington, enough, obviously Covington's going to have a hard time, figuring out how he can get this guy to the mat if every time he gets into range, he's getting an elbow slammed in his face. So I could see that path to victory for Edwards. Here's the thing, though. So in my comments on my video, this guy JD, I like JD. He's awesome. He noticed that I said Covington had good striking, and so it made me feel like, okay, I need to elaborate, because he doesn't have good striking in the sense like Leon Edwards has good striking, where it's very clean, crisp, technical. He can be, I guess, if you put him in front of a heavy bag, sure. But what Colby Covington does that makes his striking good is it's effective for what he wants it for. And what that is putting stuff down the middle, putting stuff in your face to make you think about that, so he can get his takedowns and start closing that distance. And that's the thing I think that Edwards is going to struggle with. Just, I don't think he's going to be able to get the collar tie into the elbow every single time Colby Covington comes in. So I think what happens is we see fists flying, we see kicks coming, Colby Covington with a stupid amount of volume, just a ridiculous amount. That's what he does. And I think that, yeah, at times he's going to get caught on the way in. He's probably going to, take a knee for the first responders or whatever. But no, I think at times he's going to be able to get past that and he's going to be able to get in. And when he does, he's just going to keep that volume going, whether it's punches or just whether he's throwing elbows or if he's just shooting for the takedowns. And I think just the relentless pressure from Covington is going to be able to steal some rounds. So I do think we're going to get a decision. I think the over is probably likely. Covington's very durable. I think it was an early stoppage in the Usman fight when he got stopped. I think that was an early stoppage. I do think Covington was still in it in that. Sure, he was, getting rocked at that point, but I think he was still in it. We might get hopefully we don't get a quick triggered ref in this one. I think it's Herb Dean. He's hit or miss. He could go either way. Yeah, who knows?
He's always late to the party. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, there you go. Sometimes he's really late to the party. And if that's the case, then I think we're definitely getting a decision. I think it's going to be a good back and forth fight. But I think Colby steals 3 rounds. I do. I think he steals 3 rounds. I think a lot of it's going to be pushing him up against the cage and just grinding on him. And Edwards' volume isn't enough that I could back him against somebody like Covington. The collar tie to the elbow, though, is an absolute beautiful transition that he has. And I think if he's able to do that early and often, he could really deter some of those takedowns, or at least make Covington have to change how he's getting the takedowns. But I'm going to take Covington, especially with him being the underdog, with the higher output, the relentless wrestling. So, yeah, Covington's my pick.
All right, 2 for 2, Johnny.
Oh, man, I'm going to be on the other side, but I'm not confident at all. I'm on the Leon Edwards side. I like his striking, obviously. I do think Colby Covington's going to make this so freaking close, though. But just Leon's going to land a couple very good shots early. I think he can win the early rounds, but I like Colby in the later rounds. Maybe round 3. Whoever wins round 3 might win this fight, actually. But I mean, Leon Edwards does have pretty good takedown defense, especially if he's holding the fence, like all that good stuff. But I mean, as the fight goes on, I don't think Edwards is going to get that like last second knockout again, like he did against Usman here. He can win the early rounds. I think Covington will win the later rounds. He's got the better cardio, I think. I think after 10 takedown attempts, like Leon's going to start feeling it. He's going to be a little bit slower, and it's going to go to decisions. It's going to be super close, but I just think Edwards is going to ever so slightly edge it out. It might even be a draw, guys. Like, that's how close I think this fight could play out. It really could be a draw spot here again. And maybe you can do Covington spread plus 5.5. I know it's only minus 200, but I think that's super safe parlay piece. But I don't think there's going to be a finish in this fight, and it's going to be 48-47, whoever you choose. So going with the striker here. Like I said, I usually pick the strikers over the grapplers if there's a very close fight. And this is what I'm going to do.
All right. Makes sense. How about you, Liam?
Don't feel very bullish on this fight. To your guys' point, in 5-round fights that these guys have been scheduled for, their last records to the fight starts round 5 has been 4-0-1 for Leon Edwards. The only no contest there being Bilal Muhammad getting poked in the eye, right? And then the other party involved, right, is Colby Covington. And the only time he's at a fight and inside the distance recently was when he had that, incident in the 5th round, right, with Mark Not So Goodard. And I think that's why maybe not getting the same referee for this fight. But in any case, when you're looking at a guy in Colby Covington, I do think that he's a bit of an unknown right now. Are there red flags on the Covington side? I think there clearly are, right? Like talking about brain damage outside the octagon and lawsuits, like that's real shit, right? Like this isn't play pretend. You can't play pretend in a courtroom, right? So I want to know more about that before I part ways with my money on an underdog for sure. But let's talk about what else is on the line here. Leon Edwards, for a long time, I was trying to convince people he's good at MMA, right? Nobody would believe you. But then it's like after people come around, that's when I'm always like, oh, now I want to get back out of the pool. I like to swim by myself. That's what I like to do. I like to be on big underdogs. I like to be a contrarian, just as the way I tend to bet. It's just part of my disposition. And when I look at Colby Covington, it does seem like there's a lot of popular support for him this week. He's an underdog. He's a guy that has a clear path to victory, right? And he's also got a plus level skill set, cardio, wrestling. He's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He's not a complete fish on the mat, right? He actually attempts submissions, which I think could be a difference maker here. Kamaru Usman is useless on the mat except for defensively, right? Nobody ever talks about that fact. He never submits anybody. When he takes people to the ground, what he does, he beats them up a little bit, but most of the time he's out wrestling them and just making them work and making them tired. That's what he's good at. So Leon kind of got tired in that fight that was at altitude, but the fight that they had in England, I thought he did a much better job of preventing control, right? What does it take to control somebody? And Mike, you talked about your background in wrestling. We can't lock hands, right? It's too much of an advantage. You lock your hands, it's very hard for somebody to get away. So we have rules in wrestling to prevent locked hands. Leon Edwards just made his goal in that trilogy fight to not allow Usman to lock his hands. Locked hands, you're getting taken down. No locked hands, you're going to be clinched against the fence. You're going to have to go for those short elbows and the moves that Tyler was describing, the knees to the body. Leon has a game that's very well thought out, right? He kind of understands where he's going to be in these fights. He knows he's not always going to be in the driver's seat. He's very good at a lot of different positions in MMA as well. When he goes to the bottom, he's looking over at his coaches. Okay, this is what I do. And he's right back up to his feet 15 seconds later. There's things to really like about Leon. But the question is, if somebody's on top of him, instead of like Usman, who's there to wrestle, who's there to hold you down, control you, and beat you over the course of 25, if somebody commits to pressuring him in that same way with a lot more volume on the ground and pound attack and with mixing in that submission threat, I mean, people don't talk about this, but I rewatched the fight. Masvidal had to very seriously roll out of several submission attempts from Covington. And, that would have been really embarrassing for him to lose like that, which is why he did it, right? Like he was in some dire positions, like short chokes where Covington doesn't seem like a guy who's dangerous until you've been underneath for a while. You're starting to get tired. He's still punching you in the face. So you're like trying to just get these swatting shots off of you. And then he just snatches your neck out of nowhere. That's what he does. And so again, there's no real sophistication to it, but you know what exhausts you when you're already tired? Somebody cutting off your airway. Why do great champions tap to chokes that aren't even in? We've seen it many times. They're exhausted. They're fatigued. So that for me is an interesting component of this fight, is I think Covington may try and test him in ways that Kamaru didn't, right? Kamaru will let you off the hook in those grappling exchanges. He just wants the grappling to not go against him. He got choked out once early. He said never again. That's been his whole commitment since. But that's also the reason why he's willing to separate a little bit at the end and take that space. I feel like Colby Covington knows the assignment here. Get a hold of him from second one until the end. And we saw last time out, even when he loses positions, he can create wrestling from underneath. That for me is why this is a hard fight to call and why I think Colby is a live dog. Huge Leon fan, made me 15 units that night against Usman, right? Always going to be a fan after that. But I also got to acknowledge that was a time when nobody wanted to bet him and he was plus 300 against an aging champion, 35 years of age, had already been to the mountaintop. I just thought that checks every box for me. And by the way, he won the first round all the way back when they fought. We don't have any data set to go off for this Colby Covington fight. So for me, unknowns, clear path to victory. I get why people are taking the shot on the dog. I think it's a dog or pass situation, but I think both guys by sub is kind of an interesting way I might look to target this, because I think Leon Edwards, people don't give him any credit for the fact that he took down Usman and mounted him in the first round when he's supposed to be fresh, when he's supposed to be his strongest. Nobody talks about that. He's a big, strong, physical guy at welterweight. Make no mistake, Leon's going to be the bigger guy between these two as well. So I think in the early going, I wouldn't be surprised if Leon gets a takedown. I think people would be surprised by that. I would not. But I do think that over time, Colby's just better at getting on top. He can scramble better. He's from an American system. There's only so much of a bridging of the gap you could do. So I think Leon's tried to check every box. I think he's going to be well prepared. I think he's a great champion, but I think he's got a hard assignment. So it's a great fight, and I understand why they made it, man. Colby, he's going to get some attention.
All right. There we go, guys. And that's 14 fights. That's UFC 296. Thank you all for tuning in, hanging with us now for over 2 hours, 2 hours and 17 minutes. It's been a good time. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you to my co-host, Tyler, to our two guests. I'll pass around the mic. Everybody will talk about where you can find them, what they got going on, and then we're going to get out of here because it's my bedtime. So, Johnny, start us off, brother. Where can the people
thank you. Thank you guys for having me on again. Liam, it was a pleasure meeting you finally. You can find me at Johnny K Picks at Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. I also have a Patreon as well. I do all my UFC bets there. I do UFC cheat sheets, all that good stuff too. Check me out there. And tomorrow, me and Blood Money MMA Bets will have our live show on Thursday nights, and then we'll also do our pre-fight live show on Saturday, 2 hours before the fight. So definitely check us out then.
We didn't skip a fight, did we? What
Did
is
we?
this?
Which one?
No, I don't think so.
I'm pretty
I
sure
think we
we
got 'em
covered
all.
them all.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll look again, but I'm
Just
pretty
making
sure.
sure I'm not crazy.
We even covered a fight that's not happening.
Literally.
We did.
Literally. But all right, Liam, thank you for coming on, brother. Tell the people where to find you.
Here we go.
Absolutely. Guys, you can find me everywhere at Liam Picks Fights. I'll keep it short and sweet and simple. It's been a blast. I appreciated the opportunity. Tyler, Johnny, two guys that I'm now going to be tuning into even more because I really enjoyed this conversation. And I feel like I learned a lot. So going to be doing more tape study tonight, fueled by this conversation rattling around in my brain. So God bless you guys. Best of luck on all your positions. And I hope we all come out ahead for this one.
Hell yeah. Tyler, my co-host, thank you as always for doing the show with me, brother. Tell people what you got going on.
Yeah. Hey, guys in the chat, first off, this was a great chat. We need this every time. You guys were so lively. I appreciate y'all. All of you keep doing every time we do one of these panels. Next time it'll be on my channel. I want to see all y'all back here. And I need to see all y'all keeping those comments going. In fact, even more next time. That'd be great. It helps the channels, but it also makes it more fun for us as well as for you guys because we want to go back and forth with you guys. We appreciate it. So thank you guys. You guys are the
Bring
real
the
all-stars.
questions. Bring the questions, guys.
Yeah, exactly. Questions. We want questions and we want things that we can respond to in our breakdowns because if you give us something to go off of, then we've got more stuff that we can say that's going to kind of answer the questions you may have, but also maybe it'll trigger something in our head to say, oh yeah, I didn't think to mention that. And that's some good information that people want to know. So yeah, thank you guys for doing that. What I'm doing. Okay. So obviously you know who I am, 138 MMA. If you don't know who I am, it's the name. You can find me everywhere with that. The thing that I want to point out, we've got about a month off after this weekend. Some things that I'm going to be doing. First off, I'm going, if you remember, if you've been around my channel for a while, at the end of 2022, I did a futures video for who I thought was going to be the champion at the end of 2023. We're going to find out all of those champions at the end of this card Saturday. So shortly after that, I'm going to do a recap video of how I did, how well I did on my champion predictions. There's a couple of them that nobody would have picked because they're vacant. So there's that. But either way, also something else. It's going to be myself versus a casual MMA fan to predict the 2024 MMA futures. In fact, that casual fan is my girlfriend. We're going to do a video where she predicts her champions for the end of 2024, and I'm going to predict mine. At the end of 2024, we're going to see who does better. And if she beats me, I mean, I'm just going to have to give her the channel. So those are some things coming up. Tons of other fun stuff. My dude Marcus, if you watched the live stream we did where we broke down street fights, it's that age restricted video. So you got to be signed in to see it. Definitely not monetized. I'm pretty sure we saw a guy die on that stream. So either way, Marcus is coming back. We're going to do something a little more family friendly, just a little. So that way that video doesn't get totally demonetized and age restricted. But we've got a ton of stuff coming over this month. I promise you guys are going to love the content. So don't just say, oh, there's no breakdown, so we're going to stop watching these MMA content channels, because I'm sure these guys are doing stuff as well. And I've talked way too long. Here you go, Mike. It's all yours.
Nah, dude, that was excellent. But and great idea for that show. That's good. I feel like you're gonna lose for some reason, but it's better that way.
It's terrible.
I hope he does. I hope he does.
She'll be my new co-host.
She'll be coming on. She'll be like, yeah, Mike, I think this guy's gonna win because he's hotter.
That's how
I like his tattoos.
Yeah.
So
she does have a theory that the uglier the chest tattoo, the better it makes you as a fighter.
So then
and Ross St. Denis, undefeated.
There you go.
Then my next tattoo parlay is going to
hit. Fight skills tenfold.
That's too good. But all right. So what I got going on, Couch Warrior Pod, you're on my channel. Not that hard to find me. Subscribe, like the video, please. That would be great. Follow me on Twitter, Couch Warrior Pod. That's where I put my bets right after I make them. First place is my Discord. Check that out. The link will be in the bio. It's free. I don't charge any money. Give my picks out on there first, and then we talk fights too, literally all day long. So if you're into that, check that out. No more shows for me this week. There's a bunch of regionals, so I'll be posting any bets I make if I can post them in time, because the lines for regionals sometimes move like crazy. And yeah, even though it's the last UFC card, you'll still see videos pretty much every week from me because regionals will keep going until the new year. We got Risen for the new year, a bunch of other regionals that are going to keep going on. So I'm not going to go anywhere. I'll be around. And yeah, thank you guys all once again. Thank you to all our guests, all the people in the chat. This was by far our best chat so far, and probably the best I've ever had in any of my shows either. So thank you guys once again, and good luck.
Right on, guys. Good luck.